Oh, hello my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you are enjoying the videos, so please, like, share, and subscribe. Guys, I saw some of you still confused about tipping me, so let's clarify things. All those who want to help me make these videos faster or longer, you guys can visit my Ko-Fi page, links in the description. By the way, and give me tip or buy me a coffee, as some of you might say. Now, those who are unable to pay me due to whatever reason, you guys can give me super thanks here in the YouTube. Also, thanks Roberto, Joe, Victor, and all others who are generous to tip the channel. Now, enough with the chit-chat, and let's get back to the video. The land of Sarakale wasn't a peaceful place, but today blood would once again dye the ground red. The scenery around Ethan abruptly changed. One moment he was talking with Vincent on a deserted island. The next time, he was standing inside the maze. "Are you all right, Ethan?" Sebastian asked. "You zoned out for a few minutes." "I'm fine," Ethan replied. "I saw Vincent again." "That man you met when you were under astral projection?" Ethan's other half inquired. "The one that taught you X-Vision?" "Yes," Ethan nodded. "What was he doing when you saw him?" "He was lying down on a hammock on a deserted island." Ethan's other half chuckled. As carefree as ever, some things still haven't changed. The young man wanted to ask his other half if he really knew Vincent, but he had a feeling that his question would just get brushed off. Since that was the case, he just focused on the path in front of him and started to walk, while placing his hand on his right. He was still in the middle of the maze, and he hoped that he would reach the exit before something unexpected happened again. While Ethan was traveling through the maze under the Dud Manor, a young lady made her way to the woods. Her long, light brown hair couldn't be seen at the moment because she was wearing a hood to cover her head. Similar to Ethan, she had left the Jaeger Manor to go to the Great Eagle Forest, and there she was met by 3 creatures, which Ethan had met in the past. One was the unicorn that Chloe had ridden during one of their group activities. The other was the white gorilla, Coco, whom the young lady had somehow befriended. Last, but not the least, was Broodmother, who treated the center of the Great Eagle Forest as her exclusive territory. The big spider gave Chloe some chirping sounds as if to greet her, and the young lady greeted her back. "It's good to see that you're doing well, Lady Broodmother." Chirp. After returning their greetings to each other, another creature joined this group that was currently having a secret meeting. "Since everyone is here, let us all start the meeting," the Cheshire cat, Chessie, said. "I will be leaving to meet with the elves in Westshire in a few days, so I will not be around. Since that is the case, I will tell you the news that I have gathered from Midgard. First and foremost, the Fomorians are starting to stir. Sooner or later, they will make their way here to the Shire continent. Of course, they will be able to sense the relic hidden here by the fir bogs, so it is highly possible that they will come to the Great Eagle Forest. The only saving grace is that it is close to the academy, so Reinhardt, Barrett, and the other professors will mobilize if they sense their approach. But just to be on the safe side, it will be best if Chloe takes possession of it for the time being, since she will be able to use its power." "I have no complaints with this arrangement," the unicorn replied. Coco rubbed his chin before giving his answer. "Well, if Chloe were to take possession of the artifact, then she mustn't leave the academy at all cost. As long as she stays inside the academy, I have no objections." Chirp, chirp. Broodmother shared the same opinion as Coco. She knew that as long as the artifact was near the Great Eagle Forest, its power would remain in effect even if it was inside the academy. "Chloe, you heard them," Chessie commented. "Are you prepared to take this responsibility? Know that if you are going to leave the academy, no matter what reason it may be for, you must return the artifact to Broodmother for safekeeping." "I understand," Chloe nodded. "I will keep it safe and stay in the academy." Chirp. Broodmother then tapped one of the invisible strings beside her. A chain reaction took place, making the spider webs that covered Broodmother's territory shake continuously as if they were vibrating. At that moment, a faint sigh echoed in the surroundings, which made Chloe think that the forest itself was the one who heaved that great sigh. Of course, she didn't think that was possible due to her current knowledge. But sometime in the future, the young lady would realize that the Great Eagle Forest was more than what it seemed on the surface. Ethan had just finished a tough battle against the father of the Minotaur that he had slain some time ago. Fortis Dud wasn't joking when he said that it was stronger than the first Minotaur that he had defeated at the beginning of the maze. Since he did not want to guess where the core of the Minotaur was, he just used his X-vision and allowed his other half to temporarily take over his body. His other half didn't want to help at first, but he also knew that Ethan was exhausted from the battles he'd had earlier. Because of this, he decided to lend the young man a hand and help him find the weakness of his opponent. After finding out that the core was in the monster's head, Ethan focused on hitting that spot. However, the Minotaur didn't make it easy when it realized that its opponent knew where its weakness was. A battle of attrition ensued, with Ethan winning at the end. However, he was already way past his limit, so he hoped that he wouldn't have to battle other monsters along the way. "After this, you need to do some stamina training," Sebastian commented. "You're too used to fighting explosively and overwhelming your opponents with brute strength. In the lands of Alester, it was fine since you had Lily and the other tribesmen helping you. But there will come a time when you have to face multiple strong opponents by yourself alone." Ethan nodded, knowing that Sebastian was right. As much as he hated to admit it, without Illumina's help, he wouldn't have beaten the beautiful lady at the lake who also specializes in using water magic. After making another right turn, Ethan found himself staring at 100 numbered doors. There were stairs leading to them, and some of them were hanging upside down. Ethan could feel a headache coming on. How was he supposed to traverse such a terrain? However, he remained calm as he scanned his surroundings. In order to reach those stairs, there were 3 pathways he could take. One went to the left, one was in the center, and one went to the right. Just as he was thinking about what to do next, Fortis Dud's voice reached his ears. "Congratulations on reaching this far. You are now in the final stretch. All you need to do is open the right door, and you will be able to reach the exit. You only have 3 chances to pick the right door, so make it count." After hearing the explanation, Ethan decisively took the right path. After walking for a short time, he reached another intersection. Once again, the young man turned to the right. However, at the 3rd intersection, he made a left turn. At the end of this turn, there was a stairway that led to a door. This was one of the 100 doors located in the maze, but Ethan didn't hesitate to climb the stairs. He had a determined look on his face, making Sebastian and his other half smile. When he reached the door, he looked at the number placed at its center and sighed in relief. This was the door number he hoped to see, which made him feel that the long journey had finally come to an end. He could still remember the words written at the entrance of the maze, so he used that as a reference in order to find this particular door. "When you hear my cry loudly, I am far. When it is faint, I am near. Take 2 right turns and 1 left turn in order to find me. 3 is the magic number that will set you free." Those were the words that were written at the entrance, so Ethan turned the knob and entered the door without any hesitation. The moment he entered, he found himself staring at a familiar yet unfamiliar place. He believed that he had already seen this view many times, and yet something was missing. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Fortis Dud appeared right beside Ethan as he stared at the scenery in front of him. "It is," Ethan replied. "This is where I plan to build the best academy in Eastshire," Fortis Dud said. "A place where wizards, witches, and even duds like me could come to study magic and its wonders. It's such a beautiful place, and yet it also has a very gruesome history." The devilishly looking middle-aged man waved his hand, and the scenery in front of him changed. They were still in the location where Brynhildr Academy was supposed to be. But now, the place was filled with giant monsters fighting against humans, dwarves, elves, and beastkins. It was a bloody battle, with everyone fighting for their lives. The young man couldn't believe what he was seeing. But since the battleground was indeed the place where Brynhildr Academy was built, he was compelled to believe that the scene in front of him was what truly happened to the past. Ethan's gaze landed on a beautiful lady with fairy-like wings on her back. She looked like a human from every angle, with the exception of her pointy ears, which were a bit smaller than an elf's. "She's known as the Fairy Queen, Titania," Fortis Dud said. "She ruled a place called Tur Na Nog, but after this battle, she and her sanctuary were never seen again." Ethan watched as the beautiful fairy summoned a giant fireball and threw it at a 10-meter-tall Fomorian. The giant crossed his arms over his head and endured the attack. A loud explosion erupted as the giant fireball created a hellish landscape around the Fomorian. But the latter survived, and although his surroundings were destroyed, the place where he stood remained intact. That crater that you see and the place that remained intact eventually became the lake with a small island at its center behind the academy, Fortis Dud explained. "And that area over there, where the bloodiest battle is being waged, is where the great eagle forest would grow." Ethan watched as the battle raged around him and carefully observed the Fomorians that Vincent had warned him about just a few hours ago. Fortis Dud continued his explanation, as if the carnage happening around him was like a regular thing that happened every Friday night. Each tree that grew in that place was nourished by the blood of the people of the Shire continent, the Fir Bogs, and the Fomorians, Fortis Dud explained. "It is also the reason why the Great Eagle Forest is one of the most magical places in Eastshire. There are many treants living in it, which make up nearly half of their total population in the entirety of the Shire continent. The other magical creatures are also attracted to it, including the great eagles, who made it their home. I made a deal with them, you see, and in exchange for allowing me to build an academy close to their forest, an oath was made, stating that the wizards and witches would coexist with them and help protect the forest from any outside threats. This oath has been passed down to all the headmasters of the academy, and I am glad that they have kept it until now. Professor Reinhardt is doing a great job in keeping this place a safe place for students to study, as well as preserving the ecosystem that has developed within the Great Forest. But the times are changing, Ethan. Within the forest, the artifact that was created from the lifeblood and magical powers of all the creatures that had died during that war will definitely attract the Fomorians to this place. When that happens, Brynhildr Academy and the Great Eagle Forest will once again become a battleground. I don't want to see all the hard work that me and my friends had put in turn into a place of ruins." Fortis Dud then glanced at Ethan and held his gaze. He had built the academy in order to teach the next generation of wizards and witches the beauty of magic and allow them to use it for the greater good. In order to prevent this from happening, all 5 of us left our will here in Brynhildr Academy inside our respective manors, Fortis Dud stated. "Before another war erupts, we are to choose our champions within our own manors and grant them the knowledge, as well as the means, to help defend the academy. If you hadn't appeared at the academy, I might have chosen George as my representative." Ethan blinked in confusion. He would understand if the one Fortis Dud chose was his head prefect, Henry, but he chose George of all people. Seeing his reaction, Fortis Dud chuckled. "Silly boy, don't underestimate George," Fortis Dud said. "He might goof off all the time, but when he gets serious, that guy can do unbelievable things. But since you arrived, I thought that you would be the better candidate to carry out this task." "And what exactly do I need to do?" Ethan inquired. "Grow up first," Fortis Dud replied. "Excuse me. Like I said, you need to grow up a bit. You still haven't even completed your coming-of-age ceremony yet. Many people don't know, but passing that trial opens up countless possibilities, for Yggdrasil itself will acknowledge your existence. Once you succeed, I will give you an artifact that will help you fight against the Fomorians alongside the 4 other champions that the wills of my friends have chosen." Fortis Dud then smirked before pointing at his chest. "I was a dud, and yet I was among the people who fought against the demon lord of my era. Believe me when I say that the old man was a tough cookie to crack." I sincerely believe that we only won because he was way past his prime. If we faced him a few years earlier, things might have ended differently. The founder of Dud Manor chuckled nervously while wiping away the non-existent beads of sweat on his forehead with his hand. Well then, let's get back to business. Fortis Dud patted Ethan's shoulders. A pop quiz for you. Do you know what form my resonance materializes in? Ethan nodded. An ancient dragon. That's right, Fortis Dud nodded. But actually, this is just a farce. My resonance isn't really a dragon. He just disguised himself as a dragon. I'm going to tell you a little secret, okay? Actually, my resonance isn't a resonance either. It's just another farce. Seeing the confused look on Ethan's face, the founder of Brynhildr Academy laughed loudly. Yes, I fooled everyone including my friends, Fortis Dud said with a smug look on his face. Everyone was surprised when a dud like me suddenly gained a power that even surpassed the prodigies of my time. My friends are all geniuses, but none of them were able to beat me in duels after I gained a power that defied all common sense. You see, back then, duds were truly pitiful people. They were looked down upon by the magical society because they were people who couldn't use magic. Back then, the Shire continent was a very chaotic place because the demon lord was wreaking havoc across the land. During that time, being powerless equated to death, so I decided to harden my resolve and use the ancient arts that were passed down to me by my ancestors. Fortis Dud's smile deepened as he moved closer to whisper something in Ethan's ears. Although you have hidden it well, I can tell that we are both kindred spirits, Fortis Dud stated. I should know because I fought against him hundreds of years ago. Ethan was starting to feel uncomfortable, so he pried himself away from the middle-aged man's hold and took a few steps away from him. Fortis Dud didn't make any move and simply raised both his hands in surrender as a way to tell Ethan that he meant him no harm. Ethan, I was a dud, Fortis Dud said with his hands still raised in surrender. But that all changed when I made a pact with someone. Since I was unable to wield power on my own, I decided to wield the power of others. Instead of a wizard, I became a warlock. Fortis Dud then crossed his arms over his chest and smiled. I told you earlier, right? Fortis Dud commented. We are kindred spirits. I didn't sense it in the past when you first arrived at the academy because it was very faint. But the moment your magic circuits started to heal, I understood that his blood flowed in your veins. I may not be the smartest person in the world, but I know what 1 + 1 is. And by Yggdrasil's grace, that old fool actually succeeded in making someone like you. Thrice blessed, with 3 patrons. Even I would pale in comparison to you once you reach your full potential. Fortis Dud had a crazy glint in his eye as he looked at Ethan, making the latter raise his guard. Take this and keep it close. Fortis Dud threw something at Ethan, which the latter caught by reflex. Taking a good look at it, he noticed that it was a golden egg that was the size of a chicken egg. You don't have to do anything. Just keep it close to you, Fortis Dud stated. Let your power nourish it from time to time, and I guarantee that not even the ancient Wendigo, who serves as your guardian, can hold a candle against it. As to whether that egg will already be hatched when the Fomorians arrive, even I don't know. But since you are thrice blessed, I am looking forward to what kind of creature will be born from that egg that was passed down by the Morrigan to the Order of Ouroboros. No one has been able to hatch it for hundreds of years, but if it's you, I think the possibility exists. So grow up and do your best to survive. I would like to tell you more, but that thing that resides inside you will definitely not stay quiet if I were to say something that you're not supposed to know at this moment. Ethan's other half snorted from within his sea of consciousness, making Sebastian chuckle. This guy is batch *T crazy, Sebastian said as he looked at Fortis Dud. I like it. Perhaps, hearing what the guardian of Zentris had said. Fortis Dud made an exaggerated bow that performers did at the end of their performance. Time for you to go back, Ethan, Fortis Dud said. The next time we meet, I look forward to seeing your progress. I just hope that you're still alive when that time comes. Without another word, Fortis Dud waved his hand, and the world around Ethan suddenly shattered and descended into darkness. Ethan felt something poking the side of his face, forcing him to open his eyes slowly. His entire body felt heavy, which was a sensation that he had already experienced in the past. "You must really like sleeping on the floor of the common room, Ethan," George said in a teasing tone. "It makes me want to try it as well." It took Ethan a few seconds to process what his senior was talking about. However, after seeing his manor mates looking at him with amused expressions on their faces, he finally understood what happened to him. "George, can you please pick me up and place me on the sofa?" Ethan said. "Although there's carpet here, the floor is still hard." The third year chuckled after hearing Ethan's request and tried to pick the young man up, but to his surprise, Ethan's body was as heavy as lead. "No, or a bit of help," George stated. "Ethan is so heavy, I can't lift him alone." Noah nodded. He thought that George was just messing around, but he still agreed to help. Seeing his friend lying on the hard floor felt really uncomfortable. But to his surprise, he was unable to lift Ethan up because his body was truly heavy. "I told you so," George smirked. "On the count of 3, Noah said. 1, 2, 3. The two teenagers managed to lift Ethan a bit, but they were unable to lift him all the way. Just as they were about to lose their strength, Henry grabbed hold of the young man's body and lifted him up easily. "Yeah, you're much heavier now, Ethan." Henry had an amused look on his face as he laid the young man on the couch. "What have you been eating as of late?" "Minotaurs," Ethan replied with sarcasm. "Dragons, too." "Nice," Henry smirked. "Sounds delicious. Call me next time, okay?" "Sure." "Great." After making sure that Ethan was fine, Henry left the dorm to have breakfast in the dining hall of the academy. Since this wasn't the first time this had happened, his manor mates thought that he would be fine this time as well. Also, Luna and Lillian were with him, so they were confident that the young man was in good hands. Once they were sure that everyone in the manor had left, Luna held Ethan's hand and looked at him with worry. "Is this why you told us not to sleep beside you last night?" Luna asked. "What happened?" Lillian, who was also worried about Ethan, gently raised his head and placed it on her lap, giving him a lap pillow. "I'm sorry, but I can't tell you about it," Ethan replied. "It's one of those secrets where I am bound to keep my silence by things outside of my control." "I see," Luna sighed. However, the young lady noticed something in Ethan's right hand, which piqued her curiosity. "You seem to be holding something," Luna commented. "Is that an egg?" Ethan's right hand was half open, revealing the thing in his hand. Just like Luna had guessed, it was indeed the golden egg that Fortis Dud had given him before his world shattered and descended into darkness. "Is this one of those secrets that you're not supposed to tell us?" Lillian asked. "No," Ethan replied. "It should be safe for you girls to touch it, I think." "Are you sure?" Luna inquired just to be certain. Ethan nodded. "Try it." Luna cautiously poked the golden egg at first, but after seeing that she wasn't experiencing any backlash, she decided to be a bit bold and reached out to hold it. The egg was smooth and slightly warm in her hand. It was the size of a chicken egg, and if it wasn't for its golden color, Luna would definitely think that it was indeed a chicken egg. "Will this egg hatch?" Luna asked. "It will," Ethan replied. "What is inside it?" "I don't know." Ethan felt many times better after the egg was taken from his hand. It was as if the egg was the thing that was weighing him down. Now that it was in Luna's hand, he was starting to feel a lot better, as if a great burden had been removed from his shoulders. "I see, that egg is a greedy one," Ethan's other half commented. "As long as you are the one holding it, your magical reserves would be drained constantly, making you suffer symptoms of magic deprivation. It's best to store it inside Morgan's ring, and only take it out when you don't plan on taking missions or going out of the academy," Sebastian stated. "I don't know what is inside that thing, but I can feel that it is very powerful. I wonder how much magic power it has consumed during its lifetime." Ethan frowned after hearing Sebastian's words. According to Fortis Dud, the golden egg was given to the Order of the Ouroboros by the Morrigan. Since that time, no one had been able to hatch it. This also meant that countless wizards and witches had taken custody of the golden egg and allowed it to take their magic powers as its nourishment. After realizing this fact, Ethan wondered if the egg would hatch in his lifetime. "Can I also take a look?" Lillian asked out of curiosity. "Okay," Ethan replied. Luna then handed the egg to Lillian, allowing the young lady to give it a better look. "It really does look like a chicken egg, doesn't it?" Lillian muttered as she looked at the egg in the palms of her hands. "Maybe a golden chick will hatch from it." "Are there any golden birds in the wizarding world?" Ethan asked out of curiosity. Luna shook her head. "I haven't heard about any golden birds before." "Me neither," Lillian commented. "Phoenixes are more crimson in color and not gold. Also, I have already seen a phoenix egg. I can confirm that this doesn't look like one." While the three were having a casual talk, the door of the manor opened, and 3 people, whom they didn't expect to come visit them at this time of the day, appeared. Professor Reinhardt, Professor Barrett, and Edmund all looked at the golden egg in Lillian's hand with solemn expressions on their faces. "That Chesmeyer cat was right," Edmund said. "A troublesome era is upon us." "I think it will be best if you go and see the king as soon as possible," Professor Barrett stated. "We will also need to make countermeasures, right, Reinhardt?" "Yes," Professor Reinhardt stated. "We should do it now while we still have time." After saying those words, the 3 men left as soon as they came, leaving the 3 teenagers behind. The moment Luna had taken the golden egg from Ethan's hand, a subtle magical ripple spread throughout the academy. Only wizards and witches who had reached a certain level would be able to sense this fluctuation, and it alarmed them. Coco, the unicorn, and Broodmother also sensed the fluctuations from where they were deep within the Great Eagle Forest. This made the 3 magical creatures immediately arrange an emergency meeting. For a brief moment, they felt the power of a Fomorian, which was located inside Brynhildr Academy. The place they thought to be the safest place in all of Eastshire. "Will that ripple affect the artifact that is currently in Chloe's possession?" Coco asked. Broodmother chirped 2 times before shaking her head. "It won't influence the artifact in any way," the unicorn stated. "But it is a variable that might throw our plans down the drain. I'll go and talk to Professor Enjal. We need to hold a meeting with the headmaster of the academy. This is something that we cannot delay." Coco and Broodmother nodded their heads in agreement. This was indeed something that mustn't be delayed, or else it might cause the destruction of Brynhildr Academy from the inside out. 2 days had passed since Ethan finished Fortis Dud's trial. That was how long it took him to regain his strength after being sucked dry by the golden egg, which had been given to him by the founder of Brynhildr Academy. Right now, the egg was stored securely inside Morgan's ring, allowing Ethan to take a breather, or so he thought. As soon as their afternoon classes ended, Ethan saw Lily's sister, Lyall, waiting for them in the hallway. The moment she saw Ethan, the young lady with long red hair and green eyes walked toward him and gave him a hug, catching Lillian and Lily by surprise. Ethan didn't push her away because Lily had told him that among her brothers and sisters in the family, Kanal and Lyall were the closest to her. For this reason, the young man endured the hug of the teenage girl, who was holding herself back from flirting with him in public. "Okay, stop right there." Lily pried her sister away from Ethan after seeing Lyall's hand sneakily move downward, likely with the intention of squeezing the young man's backside. Lily knew her sister well enough, and so she decided to intervene before something ridiculous happened. "Oh, Lily is such a killjoy." Lyall pouted before saying something that almost made her sister cover her face in embarrassment. "And I was so close to giving that nice-looking bum a good squeeze. Next time I will not fail." Lily no longer took any chances and dragged her sister away. She didn't want to make any more scenes in the hallway, especially when all of her classmates were now looking at her sister in amusement. If they only knew that, aside from her family and people whom she found interesting, Lyall would not hesitate to stab someone in the eyes for making fun of her. "Is that Lily's sister?" Lillian asked. "Yes," Ethan replied. "She's an interesting person, right?" "Well, I guess you can say that." Lillian smiled faintly because she clearly saw Lyall's attempt to touch Ethan's backside. Fortunately, Lily intervened, and her lover's dignity was preserved. Even so, an idea popped up inside her head, which she planned to do tonight when she slept with Ethan inside his room. "We better check up on Lily and see if she is all right," Ethan said. "If Lyall is here, her brother will not be far behind." Lily had already informed him beforehand that her family was going to visit the academy in order to talk to him. Among them was her birth mother, Lee, who wanted to see if her daughter made a mistake in choosing her life partner. She had seen what Ethan looked like, so she didn't have any complaints about his good looks. What she was concerned about was whether he was really a dud or not, because she wanted Lily to find a powerful wizard who would strengthen the power of her witch bloodline. A few minutes later, Ethan and Lillian found Lily and Lyall talking in hushed voices in a corner of the library. "Mother Lee didn't want to make a scene, so she decided to wait for your classes to end," Lyall explained. "However, the headmaster was informed of her arrival, so he invited her to his office. Brother accompanied her, and I stayed behind to wait for your classes to end. That way, I could inform you about our arrival, and also ask you to bring Ethan to the headmaster's office, so that Mother Lee can see him." "Understood," Lily replied as he glanced at Ethan, who was headed in their direction. "I'll bring him with me to the headmaster's office." "Who is that girl beside him?" Lyall asked with a frown. "Did the number of his lovers increase again while we were away?" "Yes." "Tusk, someone beat me to it." When Ethan finally arrived in front of the two ladies, she introduced Lillian to Lyall, making the older girl pout. "Hey, why don't you make me your lover as well?" Lyall asked. "I thought about asking you out when Lily brought you to our home during your winter break. I was really disappointed when you didn't come with her. Also, you should thank me because I am one of the few who tried to convince Father not to personally make a trip to see you. Had he really come here, things would get really bad and really fast. We barely avoided that disaster thanks to me." "Thank you," Ethan replied with a smile. "Don't just thank me, make me your lover too." "All right, let's go to the headmaster's office first to see Mother," Lily interjected. "Come with me, Ethan. The sooner we deal with this, the faster they can go home. Lillian, I'm sorry, but this is a family matter. I cannot bring you with us." Lillian nodded in understanding. "I'll wait for you in the Dud Manor." "Okay," Ethan replied. "Hey, we just arrived, you know," Lyall said anxiously. "Don't be too quick to send us away." Ethan couldn't help but smile seeing this side of Lyall. When he first saw her, he thought of her as a calm and collected person. But now, that beautiful first impression had been completely shattered, making the young man sigh in his heart. Although it didn't show on his face, Ethan was actually looking forward to meeting Lily's mother, Lee. Since he was serious about making Lily his wife, he needed to get her parents' approval first. The young lady had told him in the past that her mother was very strict, but despite that, she was a very loving mother. However, she also hoped that their family would have a wizard branch, and Lily was her hope of making that happen. Because of this, she placed great importance on her daughter's life partner. Lily was certain that if her mother wasn't impressed by Ethan's abilities, she would personally bring her back to Southshire so that the two of them wouldn't be able to see each other again. Of course, she didn't bother telling Ethan about this because she was confident that her mother would understand why she chose him as her lover. A few minutes later, they finally arrived at the headmaster's office. The moment they entered the room, Ethan came face to face with a beautiful lady who had a gaze that was as sharp as a sword. "So, you're the one that Lily chose as her life partner." Lee looked at Ethan from head to foot. "Just like Kanal and Lyall said, you are indeed a dud. I don't feel any magic power emanating from your body." Ethan couldn't help but groan internally, because the reason why he didn't have any magic power at the moment was due to the fact that the golden egg had sucked it all up. Even so, he couldn't back down now and simply smiled at his future mother-in-law, who was only a step away from dragging her daughter back to Southshire. Although she had no problems with Ethan's good looks, appearance alone wasn't enough. This was especially true for wizarding families, who were actively looking for talented individuals to marry into their families. "Tell me one good reason why I should allow my daughter to stay your lover," Lee said in a cold tone. "You only have one chance, boy, so make it count." Professor Reinhardt, who was a good friend of Lily's mother, only smiled at the side and waited for Ethan's reply. He already told Lee all of Ethan's achievements and managed to give her a better impression of the boy. However, the headmaster also knew that the one who needed to convince Lee was not him, but the young man who had given him a headache 2 days ago. "You only have one chance, boy, so make it count." These words were spoken coldly, making Ethan understand that this was Lee's ultimatum. If he failed to convince Lily's mother that he was worthy of her daughter, then there was a chance that Lee would get in the way of their relationship. Ethan had no intention of letting that happen. Not only was Lily his first lover, but she was also the one who saved him when he was feeling hopeless and helpless back in the lands of Alastair. He would not let her go no matter what. But there was one thing that bugged him, and he made his opinion known. "Mother, you ask me why you should allow Lily to stay by my side, but you never asked her why she wanted to stay by my side," Ethan replied in a calm manner. "Have you asked her why she chose me as her lover?" Professor Reinhardt and Lyell gave Ethan a thumbs up in their hearts because he had the guts to talk back to Lee in this manner. Even Kanal couldn't help but smile after seeing the young man act the way he did. Lee didn't like that her question was answered by another question, making her arch her eyebrow. However, she had to applaud Ethan for having the guts to call her mother, despite the fact that she still hadn't given him her approval. "Teenagers often make mistakes, especially when they fall in love the first time," Lee stated. "Lily might like you now, but there is no guarantee that she will continue to like you in the future. As her mother, I only want the best for her. So I want her to find a good boyfriend who will not only take care of her needs, but would also allow our family's bloodline to flourish. This will be the last time that I will allow you to question me, boy. There will be no next time, so answer my question now." Ethan nodded. "The answer to your question, Mother, is really simple. You will find no one better than me as your son-in-law." "That's it," Lee eyed Ethan in disdain. "A dud like you believes that I can't find someone better than you." "Yes," Ethan replied with confidence. "You won't find someone better than me." "Just where is this confidence of yours coming from?" "I've been through a lot, Mother. If you think this is a joke, I am willing to challenge Lily's father in a duel. Of course, since I am at a disadvantage, I will be the one to choose the location of our fight." Kanal, who was leaning on the wall, couldn't help but look at the young man with a solemn expression on his face. He already knew the place where Ethan would fight his father because he had already experienced it firsthand. "Ridiculous," Lee scoffed. "It seems that you have no idea who my husband is, boy. If you knew, you would not dare to say such words." "Yes, you're right, Mother," Ethan replied. "Lily didn't tell me much about her family, but you don't know me as well. I am confident that even if your entire family fought me at the same time on the battlefield of my choosing, none of you would be able to beat me." Earlier, Ethan's other half told him that when dealing with people who look down on him, he must not back down and even assert his arrogance over them. Sebastian, who never shied away from trouble, agreed with his comrade and urged Ethan to challenge Lily's father in a duel. Of course, the battleground would be the sea. As long as the fight was in the sea, it wouldn't matter if they brought their entire family. Ethan, who also understood the importance of taking the higher ground in a negotiation, borrowed his other half's arrogance because he didn't like the way Lily's mother was looking at him. It was the gaze of someone who was looking down on a person in their heart. If the one facing off against Lee was Ethan before he was sent to the lands of Alastair, the young man might have backed down and cowered under Lee's sharp gaze. But he was different from his past self. He already had blood on his hands, and he was constantly fighting against strong individuals, allowing him to gain more battle experience. He wouldn't shy away from fighting strong opponents because, from the very start, he was already expecting that he would have to fight some of his in-laws in order to gain their approval. This was what he did with Luna's family, and he would probably need to do the same with Lillian's family as well. Since that was the case, then he would not back down when it came to fighting Lily's father, whom he believed was several times stronger than Kanal. Even now, Ethan believed that he still couldn't beat Lily's older brother unless they were fighting near a body of water like rivers, lakes, and the sea. Still, if push came to shove, he would follow through on his challenge to Lily's father. Lily had already mentioned in the past that, within her tribe, they always looked up to the strong. That was the tradition of their tribe, so even if Lee agreed to their relationship, Lily's father, Seth, would still challenge Ethan to a duel to prove his worth. Even if the young man didn't win, the fact that he was willing to face off against Seth was something that would give him a good impression of his future son-in-law. But Lee was different. She didn't care if Ethan was really strong. What she wanted to know was whether the young man would be able to strengthen Lily's bloodline, allowing her to give birth to powerful wizards and witches who would herald the magical lineage of their family. "I think I only wasted my time by coming here," Lee said coldly. "You are not worthy of my daughter. I will not allow her to marry a dud." Professor Reinhardt, who had been listening to the exchange between the two, decided to interfere. "Lee, how about you personally test Ethan to see whether he is really worthy of your daughter or not?" Professor Reinhardt asked. "Very well," Lee nodded. "I've heard that you can cast a partial resonance. Since you think you have what it takes to beat my husband, I will put you to the test. Let's have a magical duel. You are not allowed to use any weapons or artifacts. The only thing you will use is your wand. I want to see if you can back your arrogance." Lee believed that Ethan was only using a magical artifact that allowed him to fight on par against wizards and witches. As long as he didn't use any magical weapons to fight her, she was certain that she would be able to see his true colors. The reason why she agreed to Professor Reinhardt's proposal was to let her daughter see that the young man was only strong due to the magical artifacts he possessed. Without them, he was just a dud whose magic power was mediocre at best. "Very well, Mother," Ethan replied. "Let's have a magical duel, but before that I need to talk to your daughter about something." "No," Lee shook her head. "You are coming with me straight to the arena. I will not give you time to prepare your silly tricks. Do you really take me for a fool? I don't know what cheap tricks you plan on preparing, but I will not have any of it. Headmaster, please take us to the arena right now. Kanal, make sure that he doesn't run away. If he does something funny, restrain him." Lily, who knew the real reason why Ethan wanted to talk to her in private, decided to take a step forward in order to take the initiative to kiss him. By doing so, she would supply her magic power to him. But before she could even do anything, Lee pointed her wand in her direction and cast the spell, Impediendum, paralyzing her daughter completely. Lyall caught Lily before she fell directly on the ground and supported her body. Lee already had a suspicion that Ethan was using a trick in order to fight against wizards and witches. Even after using her strong senses, she wasn't able to detect any presence of magic in Ethan's body. Because of this, she wanted to know if Ethan was the real deal, allowing her to truly know if he was really a powerful wizard or just a dud who only knew several tricks that allowed him to overcome stronger opponents in magic duels. Lee had a confident smile on her face as she stood in the arena. Back when she was still studying at Brynhildr Academy, she had her fair share of duels. It had been many years since she had been in the academy, and being here made her recall a lot of fond memories of her youth. Lily didn't know that her mother was also hailed as one of the pillars of the first years during her era. She took pride in that achievement, so when she heard that her daughter achieved the same, she was very proud of her. However, when she realized that the dud in front of her was also one of those pillars, she started to question in her heart if the academy still had the same standards when it came to choosing the pillars of the first years. She couldn't believe that a dud could stand alongside the young geniuses of the magical world. What surprised her the most was the unbelievable fact that the dud was actually a double pillar holder, which was achieved after defeating Langston Care in a duel. She knew of the Care family, since they were one of the high-ranking noble families in Eastshire. It even crossed her mind to let Lily marry into that family, because not only would it allow them to form powerful connections in Eastshire, but the Care family's magical lineage was one of the best as well. They had power, bloodline, and influence, all in one package. And yet, one of their scions was defeated by a dud. This was why Lee wanted to know whether Ethan was using some kind of cheap trick to win his duels, as well as steal her daughter's heart. "Are you ready to be unmasked?" Lee asked the young man in front of her, who was holding his wand in his right hand. "Ready for my daughter to see what you really are." Ethan was very tempted to say that Lily had already seen his everything, and that he had seen her everything as well. However, he had a feeling that if he were to truly say that in front of Lee, the beautiful lady would go all out to castrate him. "Ethan, should I take over?" Ethan's other half proposed. "I'll end this battle in less than a minute." "No," Ethan replied. "I can feel that you are very angry. You might accidentally hurt Lily's mother if you fight her now." "What do you think of me? A child. I have more control over my emotions and power compared to you." "I know, but I won't take any chances. Don't worry. You and I both know that I have the means to fight her." Ethan's other half hummed in agreement. Although the current Ethan didn't have any magic power right now, he could still use the moon magic that Luna had stored in his heart. The young man still hadn't used the orbs of magic, and he was quite thankful that he could use his lover's magic power at a time like this. "Not going to answer," Lee smiled. "Well then, I guess we have nothing else to talk about. Headmaster, if you please." Professor Reinhardt nodded. "Both of you already know the rules, but I'll repeat it just in case," Professor Reinhardt said. "If you fall off the arena, get knocked unconscious, or can no longer battle, the match will end. Are both of you ready?" "Yes," Lee replied. "Ready," Ethan answered. "Then let the duel start." Lily, Lyle, and Kanal watched the arena intently. But before the battle started, a few witches descended on the arena to watch the battle as well. Luna, Lillian, Nicole, and Emma came to watch the battle to show their support to the young man about to fight Lily's mother, who held the title of Frozen Death when she was still a student at Brynhilder Academy. "This matchup is bad," Lyle commented. "Ethan specializes in water magic, and Mother Lee uses ice magic. He will have a hard time fighting her." "That's not the main problem," Kanal commented. "Even now, I still don't sense any magic power coming from Ethan. He's like an ordinary human right now." Kanal, who had faced off against Ethan, had witnessed his display of magic. He could feel his magic back then, which confused him since he thought that Ethan was a dud. But now, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't detect any magic power coming from the boy. It was not only him paying close attention to this battle. Professor Reinhardt, who knew that Ethan was a dud from the start, also wanted to see the outcome of this match. He had tested Ethan's proficiency twice, using the appraisal stone, but both times gave off the same result. He was a dud. So he was also wondering how Ethan was able to use his magic. He had already dismissed the idea of Ethan using magical batteries during his duels. This type of magical artifact was banned in competitions, and the safety magic in the arena would also react if such an artifact was being used. Simply put, Ethan didn't cheat in his previous duels, so the headmaster could only think of one possibility. Ethan was able to store magic power inside his body for brief periods of time. This was why he could only use magic on specific days and moments, allowing him to win his duels. Professor Reinhardt really didn't care about this matter. In fact, he had always been on Ethan's side. However, understanding how the teenage boy was able to gain magic was still an important matter. The last thing he wanted to do was accidentally send the young man on missions where he might not be able to recharge his magic power. He didn't want Ethan to suffer, so although Lee was using a high-handed method to test the boy, Professor Reinhardt allowed it. The headmaster knew that if he didn't do anything to convince Lee that the young man in front of her was worthy of her daughter, she would definitely do her best to separate the two of them, which was something he didn't want to happen. Gelida Agri, Lee immediately turned the arena into a frozen field, and with it came countless icicles flying in Ethan's direction. Ethan stood still as countless icicles flew in his direction. At this time, he couldn't help but wonder why he was always surrounded by witches who specialized in ice magic. It was as if the women he met in his life were hard counters for his ability, or so he thought a few months ago. Confractus. Ethan raised his wand, and the countless icicles that were flying in his direction shattered. Illumina was talking to him telepathically and dictating several spells that he could use to fight against those who used ice magic. Since ice was made up of water, as long as he timed it right, he would be able to shatter it at will. Lee arched an eyebrow after seeing Ethan destroy the icicles that she had aimed at him. However, she still couldn't detect any magical fluctuations in his body. Vocer lupum glacem, the beautiful lady pointed her wand in front of her. A moment later, over a dozen wolves made up of ice emerged and charged in Ethan's direction. Magna confractus. Ethan pointed his wand toward the wolves who were only a few meters away from him. All the wolves closed in on the young man, about to lunge. Suddenly, right before they could make their move, they all swiftly disintegrated into chunks of ice. "You think using that spell will save you from me?" Lee asked. "There's only one way to find out, Mother," Ethan replied with a smile. "Give me your worst." "Don't regret those words, boy," Lee said icily. "Everyone who has said that to me in the past learned their lesson the hard way." What Lily's mother didn't know was that Ethan's 3 helpers were laughing at her. "Did you hear that?" Sebastian asked with a smirk. "Isn't that what happened to those who looked down on our boy in the past?" If she wasn't Lily's mother, I would have already taken hold of Ethan's body and spanked her for her insolence. "I'm very tempted to slap this girl," Illumina commented. "Come, Ethan, use partial resonance. I will make sure that she learns her lesson the hard way." The 3 powerful beings were making a ruckus inside his head, making the young man sigh in his heart. He was also tempted to use partial resonance and summon Illumina, but he feared that if he did that, the mermaid princess would go all out and slap Lily's mother silly. If she didn't use her hands personally, she might use the giant water hands, which Ethan had learned in his fight against the witch who specialized in water magic in one of Fortis Dud's trials. For the time being, he decided to not use his partial resonance and simply shatter all the spells that Lee would throw in his direction. Not all wizards could do what Ethan was doing. He was only able to do it because his control over water magic had increased significantly after completing the trials in the underground maze. Ethan even thought that the trial was also a training ground for Fortis Dud's successor, the inheritor of his will and legacy. The young man didn't receive any legacies, but he didn't come out empty-handed either. The golden egg in his possession was quite mysterious, and he believed that the founder of the academy wasn't joking when he said that the moment it hatched, his ancient Wendigo wouldn't hold a candle against it. "Gelida Rignum." Lee pointed her wand toward the sky, and a blue beam of light emerged from the tip of her wand. A moment later, this beam of light exploded when it reached 100 meters above her head, immediately summoning a blizzard that blocked everyone's vision. "Mother Lee is now serious," Lyell muttered. "She intends to end the duel now." Kanal nodded, agreeing with his sister's words. Lily clenched her fists tightly out of anxiety. "If only I had managed to kiss him earlier." Lily gritted her teeth as she stared intently at the blizzard in front of her. She knew that Ethan was drained of his magic, so when she saw that he was able to cast some spells, she thought that he was pushing himself to the limits again. Lily was already prepared to take care of Ethan if he suffered from the backlash of tapping too deeply into his body's reserves, which would harm him at a later time. Luna and Lillian were also worried about their lover, because they also knew his current situation. Emma, who seemed to realize that her master wasn't in peak condition, started to feel anxious as well. But just as these girls who loved and supported Ethan unconditionally were worrying about him, the young man in question was concentrating on a spell that he would use to reverse his current situation. Within that frozen world, a voice filled with determination reached Lee's ears. Grand Arya. Immediately, she found herself staring at what seemed to be a raging sea, with thunderclouds hovering above her. A moment later, the blizzard she had summoned resumed and tried to freeze the raging sea under her. However, just as the surface of the sea was about to be frozen, giant waves broke it apart, and lightning bolts started to rain down from the skis, accompanied by the roar of thunder. The moment she saw this, she remembered the story that Kanal had shared with them. He said that in his fight against Ethan, both of them disappeared for a few seconds in the arena before reappearing again. A domain, Lee's gaze sharpened. He sucked me inside a domain. Suddenly, Lee felt something wet touching her face. A moment later, everything around her cleared up as the blizzard that she had summoned transformed into a heavy rain, further intensifying the chaotic environment around her. It was then that she saw her. A beautiful lady hovered in front of her with her arms crossed over her chest. It took Lee a few seconds to realize that the being in front of her wasn't actually a human, but a mermaid. "Do you know how to swim?" Illumina asked, a sneer plastered on her face. "Well, it doesn't matter even if you do. Ethan asked me not to slap you with my hands or with my magic, but he never told me to not use my tail." A moment later, the mermaid princess turned her body and used her tail to slap Lee's stomach, sending her crashing towards the raging sea, which rose up to swallow her. Illumina then dove down to grab the woman's body and drag her to the depths of the sea. Ethan, who saw all of this happen, panted for breath and reminded Illumina not to be too harsh on Lily's mother. After deepening his relationship with Lillian, he could now use his Grand Aria for almost 5 minutes. However, dragging Lee into his domain wasn't an easy task. He already used up the 2 orbs of moon magic that Luna had placed inside his heart. Fortunately, tomorrow was the night of the full moon, so he would be able to ask the angelic beauty to store her magic inside his body again. Knowing this, he decided to go all out and allowed the mermaid princess to vent her frustrations. Meanwhile, the 2 beings inside his sea of consciousness cheered for her and were even making live commentary on the mermaid princess' subtle acts of vengeance. Ethan didn't know whether he should laugh or cry because Sebastian and his other half were having the time of their lives. "Ouch, that should hurt," Sebastian said. "Did you see her tug on Lee's hair when Ethan closed his eyes for a brief moment?" "I did," Ethan's other half replied. "She even pinched her waist a while ago. Illumina probably thought that Ethan wouldn't notice when she dragged that woman to the bottom of the sea. This girl is really dangerous. I wonder what will happen if Ethan meets her real body. God forbid that happens soon. She will eat him up, and before we know it, there will be new mermaid princesses in the sea. Damn, I'm looking forward to that. Do you think it will be added to the side stories?" "Definitely. If the author didn't add it, there would be a riot." The 2 continued their live commentary as all hell broke loose under the sea. A moment later, the blizzard in the arena disappeared, so everyone was finally able to see what was happening. Lying in one of the corners was Lee, her entire body drenched with water. Her hair and even her clothes were in disarray, as if someone had wrestled with her on the spot. Ethan, on the other hand, was kneeling at the other side of the arena, panting for breath. The silhouette of a mermaid princess was lightly rubbing his back, as if helping him to feel better. Professor Reinhardt then teleported beside the fallen Lee and checked her condition. She knew that none of them would actually die because the safety locks of the arena were activated. Even so, he still checked to see if Lee was breathing. When he confirmed that she was just unconscious, he signaled to everyone watching that the fight was over. Lily, Lyle, and Kanal immediately headed toward Lee to check her condition. Luna, Lillian, and Emma went to check Ethan's condition. Judging by the look on his face, it seemed that he had pushed himself past his limit again. Nicole, on the other hand, watched everything from afar with her hands crossed over her chest. Similar to Professor Reinhardt, she wanted to know how Ethan was able to use magic despite being a dud. "It seems like it will still take a while before I learn your secret," Nicole thought with a smile. Still, with this, I think Lily's mother will no longer get in the way of their relationship. But I'm sure her father will definitely come to give Ethan a piece of his mind. Now, that is something that I'm looking forward to seeing. Nicole and Lily weren't close enough for the magical fencer to know about Lily's family background. However, she could make guesses. If her guess was correct, then Lee's husband, Lily's father, should be someone very important in Southshire. "Well, I'll know sooner or later," Nicole mused. "I can wait." Since she was already there, she decided to also go to the arena and check on Ethan's condition. Even with her trained eye, it was truly impossible to see what had happened inside the blizzard. "I hope that it's nothing too serious," Nicole thought. "We still have a ballroom party to attend." The two of them were personally invited to the royal capital by the Grand Archmage of Eastshire in order to receive their awards for helping to defend Otto City from the dungeon outbreak. Because of this, Nicole was looking forward to what kind of surprises she would see in the royal palace, where everyone wore a mask not only to cover their faces, but their hearts as well. When Lee opened her eyes, the first one she saw was Lily. Her daughter was sitting beside her bed, holding her hand. "You're finally awake, Mother," Lily said with a relieved expression on your face. "Did Ethan hurt you badly? Tell me everything he did, and I'll avenge you later." "I'll avenge you too, Mother Lee," Lyle commented. "I'll *CK him up." Hearing that, Kanal looked at his sister weirdly. He had a feeling that Lyle was talking about something else. But since he couldn't confirm his suspicion, he remained silent and just listened to the conversation. Lee lightly caressed her right cheek. Before she lost her consciousness, she was certain that the mermaid sneakily slapped her on the cheek as a final blow. Although there wasn't any mark or injury visible on her face, she could still feel a slight sting on her cheek, as if to remind her that everything that happened was real and not a dream. "Mother Lee, did Ethan hurt you so bad that you forgot how to talk?" Lyle asked with an anxious expression on her face. "Don't worry, I'll tie him up and drag him back to Southshire. After that, I will lock him up inside my room." Feeling that the other party was getting too carried away, Lily forcefully pushed her sister behind her and continued to look at her mother, waiting for her answer. "Kanal, I think I understand what you went through in the past," Lee said, as she slowly propped herself up in a sitting position. "He used a domain and brought me into the sea. I can now understand why he is confident about challenging Seth. He might just win if he fights your father in a location of his choosing." Kanal nodded, "But even then, I still believe that father will win." "I think the same," Lee nodded. "Even if he was in a disadvantageous position, Seth will be able to deal with it. Still, there is still a possibility that he might lose." After experiencing the full brunt of Ethan's domain, even Lee couldn't be 100% certain that her husband would win in a face-off against Ethan. "Now you understand why he's not afraid of challenging our entire family?" Lily asked. She didn't even try to mask the pride in her voice, as if telling her mother, "See, I chose the right man, right?" Lee looked at her daughter, who was unable to hide the faint smile on her face. She could understand that feeling since she felt the same whenever she was with her husband, Seth. "Lyall, Kanal, can you leave your sister and me for a few minutes?" Lee asked. "I just want to ask her something in private." Lyall pouted, but she still left the room with her brother. Lee then raised her wand and pointed at the door, covering it with a thick layer of ice to prevent anyone from coming in. She then waved her wand in a circular motion, casting soundproofing magic inside of the room to ensure that no one would be able to hear her private talk with her daughter. "Ethan is a dud," Lee stated. "The headmaster confirmed this with me, so how is he able to use his magic? I want to know the truth." "Even if you ask me, I can't tell you that, Lily replied. This is something very important to him, so I can't tell you anything without getting his permission. Fine, then answer this question. Do you really believe that his bloodline will strengthen your bloodline? I don't know, but one thing is certain. He is the only man I am willing to be within this lifetime. If you and father were to separate us by force, I'm afraid that you would just create an enemy that might cause the downfall of our clan. Lee was about to tell her daughter that what she was thinking was impossible to happen. But after remembering the crazed look on the face of the mermaid princess as she dragged her to the depths of the sea, she was forced to hold her tongue. If that is the form of his partial resonance, then the real one will surely be much more deadly, Lee thought. She had briefly seen an intent to kill in the mermaid princess' eyes, and it made her uncontrollably shudder. Seeing her reaction, Lily thought that her mother might be suffering from an injury that Professor Galena might have missed. But Lee's next words caught her attention. Lily, do you know what Ethan's goal is? Lee asked. As his lover, do you know what his dreams and aspirations are? No, Lily replied. As far as I know, he doesn't have any real goal right now. Then do you think there is a chance that he might take the wrong path in the future? A path that will lead you and possibly his other lovers to destruction. Lee knew that Ethan had more than one lover. She didn't have a problem with that since her own husband had many wives as well. Originally, she didn't like the prospect of a dud marrying her daughter, thinking that it might dilute her magical bloodline. But after fighting against Ethan, she realized something. That teenage boy was a legacy holder. Legacies might be rare, but there were dozens of people who possessed them in the Shire continent. But it doesn't change the fact that those who held such powers would surpass those without one, for that was the power of legacies. They were the forces that bent the laws of reality, as well as the elements of the world to their will. It was not only wizards and witches who gained legacies. Even those without magical power could possess such powers, because that was what legacies were. Lee assumed that Ethan's power was coming from a legacy, allowing him to do things that he wasn't supposed to do. Some legacies could be transferred through blood relations, while some disappeared to look for those worthy of them after their current wielders die. If Ethan's power really comes from his legacy, then there is a chance that it will be passed down to my daughter's children, Lee thought. Still, there is a chance that it might not. Right now, Lee was in a dilemma. She had envisioned a future where Lily would become the matriarch of a magical lineage, which would push their family name to the ranks of the high-ranking wizarding families of the world. In order to do that, her daughter must find a powerful wizard to match her beauty and power, which was the reason why she had sent her to Brynhildr Academy to study magic. The next day, Lyle came to find Ethan again right after his classes ended. Knowing that this time, he would have an important talk with Lily's family, he decided to go alone. When he arrived, Lee and Kanal were waiting inside a room prepared for the guests of the academy. Ethan scanned the room and didn't see Lily. It seems that whatever we are going to discuss is for our ears only, Ethan thought as he sat on the chair in front of Lee. Lyall, who had done her work, stood behind one of her mothers and looked at Ethan with a sweet smile on her face. Ethan, remember this, don't touch crazies, Sebastian commented. That girl is one of them. Even I, who wants you to multiply your bloodline, have to agree with Sebastian on this one, Ethan's other half said. Don't stick it inside the crazies. Ethan had no idea what the two were talking about, so he decided to ignore them and focus his attention on Lily's mother, who was eyeing him with an appraising gaze. I recognize that you are strong. Lee decided to stop wasting time and get their talk over with. Also, I will no longer get in the way of your relationship with my daughter, but you have one more hurdle to face. Since I have acknowledged you as Lily's fiancé, you must now convince my husband, Seth, that you are worthy of her. I didn't know if she told you about this, but the tribes in Southshire only recognize the strong. You don't necessarily have to beat my husband, but it is important that you make a good impression on him. The men in our family can do whatever they want, but our daughters only deserve the best. This is why you must get my husband's approval if you really want to be together with Lily. So once this school year ends, you must visit us in Southshire. If you don't, my husband will come to you. Do you understand? Ethan nodded. However, he too had something to say to Lily's mother. There is a place that I need to go after this school year ends, Ethan replied. Mother, can you please tell father to wait for me until I finish my affairs in Midgard? Lee arched her eyebrow after hearing the young man's words. Lily told her yesterday that there was a possibility that Ethan was from a noble family in Midgard. But since this was just mere speculation, she didn't pay too much attention to it. May I know why you are going to Midgard? Lee asked. If you tell me the reason, I will explain it properly to my husband. Ethan held Lee's gaze for a few seconds before nodding his head. There are 2 reasons why I need to go to Midgard after the school year ends, Ethan replied. The first one is to take the coming-of-age ceremony. It seems that I am duty-bound to participate in this trial. Kanal nodded his head in understanding. The southern tribes had a similar custom in which the teenage boys and girls who had come of age must undertake the coming-of-age ceremony in order to awaken the power of their bloodline. And the second, Lee asked. With Ethan's first reason alone, she believed that her husband would agree to wait for him until he finished his trial. After all, Seth didn't want to fight a boy. He wanted to fight a man. The coming-of-age ceremony was an important tradition that even the tribe leaders needed to experience once in their lifetime. The second is to find out my real identity, Ethan replied. Someone told me that after I finish my trials in Midgard, I will finally know who I really am. This is why I have to go to Midgard, no matter what. Before Lee could even nod her head to acknowledge Ethan's reasons, Lyall immediately spoke up and raised her hand. Can I come with you? Lyall asked. I promise I'll help you with your coming-of-age ceremony. The young lady's face was a little red, which made Ethan wonder if she was feeling unwell. Sebastian and Ethan's other half shuddered because they had a feeling that Lyall had a different idea about how to turn Ethan into a real man, using the coming-of-age ceremony as an excuse. Crazy. Yep, this one should be put on the blacklist. I don't want her tainting the family tree. Ethan pretended not to hear Lyall's proposal and kept his gaze locked onto Lily's mother. Understood, Lee nodded. I will relay your message to my husband. If you are unable to make it to Southshire before the school term starts, we will send a commission to the mission hall, delegating you to personally visit us in Southshire to handle important matters. Thank you, Mother, for understanding, Ethan replied. Now, I have one more question, Lee said, before resting her hands on the armrest of her chair. How are you able to use powerful magic even though you are a dud? Ethan smiled faintly, because he had already anticipated that Lee would ask him this question. He, Sebastian, and his other half had brainstormed together in order to come up with this answer. The safest route that they had all agreed upon was to put all the blame on a legacy. Legacies were mysterious powers that no one could fully explain. No one could confidently say that they understood how legacies worked, making it the perfect scapegoat for any questions that were magic-related. I am able to use magic because I am a legacy holder, Ethan replied. I knew it, Lee sighed. Understood. Thank you for answering my questions. Please take good care of Lily. I will, Mother. I look forward to seeing you again and Father in Southshire. Just make sure you come prepared. My husband is at least 10 times stronger than Kanal. Seriously, Ethan was truly surprised about this revelation. The current him was still unable to beat Kanal unless they were fighting in the sea. If Lily's father was at least 10 times stronger than him. That's it, Ethan's other half commented. We have no choice but to get you and Lillian to do it so you can summon a thunderstorm on land. There is no other choice. Wow, Sebastian chuckled. Your inner thoughts are really leaking. You've been pushing for this for a long time now. Of course I am. All he needs to do is pin Lillian down, and it is already a done deal. Okay, calm down and take deep breaths. Ethan sighed and rubbed his forehead. Lee, Kanal, and Lyall, thought that he was feeling troubled because he was intimidated by how strong their father was. However, what they didn't know was that the reason why Ethan was rubbing his forehead was because his other half was being unreasonable inside his sea of consciousness. A few minutes later, he bid goodbye to Lee, Kanal, and Lyall before heading back to Dud Manor. Now that the issue with Lily's family had been temporarily dealt with, he could now focus his attention on the upcoming ballroom party, where he would be forced to rub shoulders with all the noble families within the Easter Kingdom. "Mother, I don't know what you're thinking, but let me say this," Lily said with a solemn tone. "The Ethan of the past is not the same Ethan you face today. His background is not simple." "What do you mean?" Lee arched an eyebrow. "What I'm about to tell you is only a guess," Lily replied. "But I think Ethan is born from a noble family in Midgard." "And what are you basing this on?" "I know that he is an orphan, and no one knows who his real parents are. But that doesn't mean that you can just make up a story about his background." "Like I said, this is only my guess," Lily stated. "But I believe that this guess of mine is accurate. However, even if I am wrong, I will still not leave his side. You might not think of him as a threat to our clan right now, but I believe that if you push him into a corner, he will make you understand that he is someone you shouldn't provoke no matter what. Please take that into consideration when you return and talk to my father about him." Lee sighed deeply, because she could tell how serious her daughter was in keeping Ethan as her lifelong partner. "I just hope that you don't regret this choice in the future, Lily." Lee replied, "You and Ethan are still young. There are still many things that can happen which will change his view on life." "It doesn't matter," Lily replied. "Regardless of his choice, even if he decides to make the world his enemy, I will continue to remain by his side. Even if our clan becomes his enemy. Ethan is not the type to provoke anyone without reason. If there ever comes a time when our clan becomes his enemy, then that only means that it was the clan that took the initiative to antagonize him." "You didn't answer my question," Lee insisted. "If Ethan becomes our enemy, which side will you be fighting with?" Lily smiled faintly. "Mother, don't ask a question you already know the answer to. Just like you have chosen father, I have chosen Ethan. Whether we regret our decision or not, both of us will see it to the end. Isn't that what it means to love someone?" Lee looked at her daughter in surprise, because she never thought that she would hear such words coming from her daughter. "It seems that your journey to the past has changed you," Lee commented. "Yes," Lily replied. "I climbed the stairs to womanhood during my stay in the lands of Alastair." "Fine," Lee said in surrender. "I will support your decision, but you will have to bring Ethan to Southshire at the next possible opportunity. Your father is not a very patient person." "I will do my best," Lily nodded. Lily knew that her mother was right. Her father wasn't a patient person, and the only reason why he didn't personally come to the academy to see Ethan this time was due to the joint persuasion of his wives. "I'll stay in the academy for a few days," Lee stated. "The headmaster had proposed an idea to me when I arrived so that I could see the current state of the academy. But knowing Professor Reinhardt, there is a deeper meaning behind it." "I don't delve into politics, Mother," Lily commented. "This is what adults do. I want to stay out of it if possible." This time, it was Lee's turn to smile. She had no intention of dragging her daughter into the muddy world of adults because she was still too young to understand the workings of politics. "Tell Ethan later that I will have a proper talk with him tomorrow," Lee said. "Also, tell him that I will be asking about his secret. Whether he will tell me or not will be up to him." "You still haven't given up, Mother." "How can I give up? This is your future we are talking about." "Hatilda, fine. Have it your way." The two talked for a few more minutes before Lee undid the ice covering the door, as well as the soundproofing magic that she had cast inside the room. As soon as the magic had been lifted, the door suddenly opened, and Lyall fell on the floor. Clearly, the young lady was trying her best to listen to the conversation inside the room, but failed to do so. Lee could only shake her head helplessly at her other daughter's antics. She already knew that the other children of her husband had superhuman senses, including hearing. This was why she decided to use soundproofing magic to prevent anyone from listening to her conversation with her daughter. While Lily and her family were busy talking in the infirmary, Ethan was resting inside his room. Currently, he was lying on the bed, wearing only his underwear as three ladies massaged his body. Luna was giving him a head massage. Lillian was massaging his arms and hands, while Emma was giving him a foot massage. He didn't suffer any backlash from using his grand aria, but he was quite exhausted from the duel. Because of this, his three lovers offered to give him a massage, and he agreed with their proposal. The young man knew that they were just worried about him, so he allowed them to do what they wanted. "Luna, I used up your lucky charm," Ethan said. "Without it, I wouldn't have been able to beat Lily's mother, so thank you." Luna lovingly caressed the side of his face. "Tomorrow, I will give you a few more lucky charms that you can use." "Luna, what lucky charm?" Selene, who was lying on the pillow beside Ethan, asked. "I'll let you see it tomorrow," Luna replied. "Maybe you can use it too." Luna could condense her power and store it inside a person's heart to serve as a magic battery for them. She also had them inside her body, allowing her to use moon magic anytime. However, she only planned to use them as a last resort. Unless the situation was dire, she would not let anyone know that she could use her magic, even if it wasn't the night of the full moon. Lillian, who had finished massaging Ethan's right hand, looked at her lover with concern. "Do you think Lily's mother will get in the way of your relationship with her?" Lillian asked. "I don't know," Ethan replied. "But I won't let them separate the two of us. It's not just Lily. All of you girls are my lovers. If someone tries to separate us all, I will become their enemy." "What if the world tries to separate us?" Lillian asked in a teasing tone. "What will you do if that happens?" "Then I will make the world my enemy." "Can you really do that?" Before Ethan could answer Lillian's teasing question, Emma answered her question first. "He can," Emma replied. "Besides, this wouldn't be the first time such a thing happened." Emma, of course, didn't say the second part of her thoughts. Lillian looked at Emma with great interest, but she no longer said anything. She had seen Ethan's resolve to fight for his lover. The young lady understood that if she were in the same situation as Lily, Ethan would not hesitate to do the same thing. Just the thought of it warmed her heart. Of course, she didn't have any intention of letting that happen. Just like Lily, she was also serious about Ethan. If her family got in the way, she was willing to run away and elope with him. Ethan, who wasn't aware of what her lovers were thinking, gradually relaxed and fell asleep. He knew that the next time he opened his eyes, he would have to set up a proper talk with Lily's mother and try his best to prevent the situation from escalating any further. "You're doing great, Ethan." "It's all because of you, Lillian. You were a very patient teacher." "No, you are just a good student. I'm sure the ladies at the ball will give you the passing grade." Ethan smiled as the music playing in the background faded. Right now, Lillian was leaning her back against Ethan, while he had his arms wrapped around her. The dance that they had just finished dancing was the dance meant for couples. As someone who had participated in several high-ranking ballroom parties, Lillian knew the type of dances that were commonly used in these gatherings. All in all, Lillian taught Ethan 3 dances due to the short time that was given to them. But those 3 dances would be enough to cover every kind of dance that would be played in the party. "You're not allowed to use this dance for anyone other than us, okay?" Lillian said before turning around to hug Ethan and stand on tiptoe. "Absolutely not allowed." "Okay," Ethan replied as he planted a kiss on Lillian's forehead. "I won't use this dance with other girls." "Including Nicole," Lillian added. Ethan chuckled before giving Lillian a light hug. "Fine." "Just joking," Lillian giggled. "I'm sure that she will try to escape being invited to this kind of dance. Since that is the case, her only option is to dance with you, so make sure to give her a helping hand." "Are you sure?" Ethan arched an eyebrow. "What if she becomes impressed with my dancing and falls in love with me?" "Silly Ethan," Lillian lightly pinched her lover's cheeks. Nicole won't fall in love with you because you dance well. It will take more than that to tame her wounded heart. Ethan suddenly became curious after hearing Lillian's words. But he decided not to pry into Nicole's private life. He already had a lot of trouble on his plate, and he didn't like adding more problems on top of it. Well then, have you prepared the clothes you are going to use for the party? Lillian asked. I need to prepare clothes, Ethan blinked. I thought the academy would provide me with something. Are you serious? Lillian didn't know if she should laugh or cry because Ethan's face showed it all. You still don't have clothes for the ballroom party. Ethan shook his head. All this time, he thought that the academy would provide him with clothes, or he would get clothes when he arrived at the palace. Because of this, he didn't make any effort to buy any clothes that he would use for the party. There was also the series of events that had been kicked off, beginning with the arrival of the Grand Archmage of the Kingdom. Simply put, he hadn't even had enough time to buy anything for the upcoming ballroom party. Ethan, sometimes I don't know if I should be happy knowing you, or be sad that you still have this side of you despite being one of the most outstanding wizards of this generation. Lillian cupped the young man's cheeks. Well, I don't really mind since we're the only ones who see this side of you. However, now that I know that you still don't have something to wear, it's time to go to Limeberg Town. Without another word, Lillian grabbed Ethan's hand and dragged him to go shopping. On their way to the exit of Dud Manor, they came across Luna and Selene, who had just returned now that the angelic beauty had finished her extra classes. Good timing, Luna, Lillian said as she also grabbed Luna's hand. Come with us to Limeberg Town. Ethan still didn't have a suit for the ballroom party. Oh no, that's not good. Luna's expression became serious after hearing Lillian's words. Let's go right away. This time, instead of one girl dragging him, it now became two, making Ethan shake his head helplessly. Several minutes later, the three finally arrived in Limeberg Town, and the first shop they went to was the shop that sold suits. Since there was not enough time for Ethan to have a custom suit made for himself, they had to pick the next best thing. Fortunately, the tailors of the wizarding world specialized in alteration magic, so changing the size of clothes wasn't an issue. After picking up a few suits that matched the color of his hair and eyes, Luna asked Ethan to try on something that caught her attention. The moment the teenage boy stepped outside of the dressing room, the two young ladies, as well as the other customers in the store, looked at him in a daze. Luna, Lillian, you are a genius. Thank you. I wasn't quite sure if it would look good on him as well. Currently, Ethan was wearing the black butler suit that Luna asked him to try on after she saw it on display. Even the seamstress nodded her head in appreciation after seeing a handsome young man wearing one of her creations. Ethan, can you call me Your Highness? Lillian asked. Pretty please. Ethan gave his lover a devilish smile before making a proper bow. Yes, Your Highness. The ladies, who were also inside the store, looked at Ethan with fawning looks on their faces. Can we keep him for ourselves? How much do I need to pay to hire him? Why is my family's butler an old man? Why can't he be a young and handsome teenager like him? I want to take him home. Luna and Lillian, who heard the comments of the ladies around them, couldn't help but nod their heads in agreement. Master, we're buying this butler suit. It's good doing business with the two of you. Ethan decided to humor his two lovers and kept his butler suit on. The three of them then had a short date in the city, with almost every young lady and woman looking in his direction. His long blue hair was tied up behind his back and held in place with a wolf hairpin. This was one of the gifts that Lily had given him, and he always wore it to keep his hair presentable. I think we should return to the academy, Lillian commented as she looked at the setting sun in the distance. Might as well, Luna replied. But at that exact moment, they came face to face with Lee, Lyall, and Kanal, who were also in the city and buying souvenirs to take back home. Lyall squealed after seeing Ethan in a butler suit. The next moment, she tried to jump into his arms, but her mother, Lee, was faster. Leviticus, Lee said as he pointed the wand at her daughter, making her freeze mid-jump. Lyall tried to break free from the spell that bound her body, but Lee's hold on her was firm, making her give up in the end. Can you not embarrass me in public, Lyall? Lee looked at her daughter with a disapproving look on her face. The beautiful woman sighed before looking at the handsome young man, who was holding hands with two beautiful girls. She already knew the names of Ethan's lovers, but she still hadn't taken a good look at them ever since she arrived at the academy. Mother, let me introduce you to Luna and Lillian, Ethan said. This is Lady Lee, Lily's mother. Nice to meet you, Lady Lee. Lillian made a perfect curtsy, which Lee returned as well. Nice to meet you, Lady Lee. Luna also made a curtsy, which was expected of a lady of her rank. This boy sure knows how to pick flowers, Lee thought as she looked at the two teenage girls, who wouldn't lose to the beauty of her daughter. Well, Lily is already his first wife, so I don't need to worry about her getting bullied by others. Lyall, who was still floating in midair, kept her gaze locked onto Ethan, making the latter feel a bit uncomfortable. The sun is about to set, so all of you return to the academy, Lee stated. Ethan, we will be returning to Southshire tomorrow. I'd appreciate it if you are there to bid us farewell. I'll be there, Mother, Ethan nodded. We'll now return to the academy. After a short goodbye, the three rode their flying brooms to return to the academy as fast as possible. Mother, why did you stop me? Lyall pouted. I was this close. All right, stop embarrassing our family, Lee replied. Kunal, make sure that she doesn't attack Ethan tonight. I'm counting on you. Yes, Mother, Kunal replied. I'll make sure that Lyall doesn't cause trouble for you and the academy. HMPH. Lyall crossed her arms over her chest and decided to ignore her brother and mother. Deep inside, she envied Lily because she managed to find a good man who was worthy of her. But for some reason, Ethan held a very fatal attraction to her. It was not just because he was handsome. No. Lyall could feel something dark, dangerous, and incredibly sexy, hiding beneath the young man's calm gaze, and it made her heart flutter inside her chest. She was very sensitive to very dangerous individuals, especially those who had the power to kill her. But instead of fearing it, she embraced this feeling, giving her the strong urge to slice up Ethan's chest and eat his heart so that he would stay with her forever. Be careful on your trip back home, Mother, Lily said as she hugged her mother tightly. I will, Lee replied. You take care of yourself, okay? Write to me regularly and don't hesitate to tell me if Ethan is bullying you. Okay, Lily nodded. A minute later, the two parted and both glanced at the handsome young man who was being pestered by Lyall for a hug. Come on, I'm just asking for another hug, Lyall pouted. Is that too much to ask? I already allowed you to hug me earlier, but you squeezed my butt after, Ethan replied as he eyed the red-haired beauty in front of him. Just why would you do that? Ethan, as your future sister-in-law, I have to check the goods and make sure they are of high quality, Lyall replied in a serious tone. Don't worry. I promise I won't squeeze anything this time. If you're really worried, I can hug you from behind. The young lady then briefly glanced at Ethan's lower region for a split second before raising her head to give him a sweet smile. Damn, did you see that? Sebastian asked. This girl is planning to squeeze Ethan down there if he allows her to hug him from behind. A very commendable trait, except that this girl is one of those crazies, Ethan's other half replied. She's not allowed to be part of the family tree. I forbid it. Ethan took a few steps back in order to distance himself from Lyall. He could tell that Lily's sister was up to no good, so he decided to stay as far away from her as humanly possible. Tisk, Lyall clicked her tongue. However, she no longer hid her desires this time and blatantly stared at Ethan's lower region, as if she were a connoisseur appraising some kind of delicious food. Will that thing even fit me? Lyall muttered subconsciously. Lily managed to take it, so I'm sure I can do it as well. Suddenly, Her vision was blocked by her younger sister, making her shake her head helplessly. "Behave yourself," Kanal lightly tapped Lyall's shoulder, making the latter stick her tongue out in his direction. "Have a safe journey, mother," Ethan said as he extended his hand to shake Lee's hand. "I'll come to see you and father as soon as I can." Lee held the young man's hand and shook it twice, but she didn't let go of his hand right away. "Ethan, make sure to come prepared," Lee said in a serious tone. "If you face my husband half-heartedly, you will definitely regret it." "Understood, mother," Ethan replied. Lily's mother finally let the young man's hand go, but Lyall snatched it and shook Ethan's hand vigorously. "I will also tell father that you want me to be your mate," Lyall said passionately. "I will wait for you in Southshire. Don't keep me waiting for long, okay?" After saying those words, she let go of Ethan's hand and ran away with a reddened face. "Mother." "Make sure to stop her from saying that nonsense, okay?" Ethan stated. "Don't worry," Lee replied. "I'm sure that she's just teasing you, maybe." The corner of Kanal's lips twitched because he understood what was going on inside his sister's mind right now. "I worry about the future," Kanal sighed in his heart. "I better clear things up with father before he misunderstands." Lily, who could guess what her brother was thinking, gave him a hug before asking him to make sure that Lyall didn't cause trouble after returning to Southshire. A few minutes later, Lee, Kanal, and Lyall finally left, leaving Ethan and Lily behind. "You can now breathe a little easier," Ethan said as he hugged Lily from behind. "Your family will not trouble you for the time being." "How brave of you to hug me just 100 meters away from the academy gates," Lily replied, but she didn't make any move to break free from Ethan's hold. "Are you not afraid that my fans club is going to target you if they see us like this?" "I'm not afraid of them," Ethan whispered in Lily's ear. "Tomorrow afternoon, I'll leave the academy to head to the royal capital. So why don't we head to Limeberg town with Luna after class?" "Sounds like a plan," Lily replied before lightly tapping Ethan's arms that were wrapped around her body. "Now, let's hurry before someone really sees us." Ethan nodded and released his lover, but not before giving her a kiss on the cheek, which made the young lady smile sweetly from ear to ear. Somewhere in the Great Eagle Forest. "Ethan is carrying a Fomorian egg," Coco asked in disbelief. "How did he even come into possession of such a thing? Also, why didn't you confiscate it?" "I can't do that, Coco," Professor Reinhardt replied. "It was entrusted to him by the founder of the academy." Seriously. The giant spider, Broodmother, was also making chirping noises, making her dissatisfaction known to the headmaster of Brynhildr Academy. "Are you sure that's the right decision?" the white unicorn commented. "You should be the one holding onto it to keep it safe. A mere student holding that thing will just cause problems in the future." "As I told you, I can't do that," Professor Reinhardt sighed. "Look, the founders of the academy have left behind their wills. They are to choose the most promising student within their respective manors and bestow upon them gifts, resources, and knowledge that will help them defend the academy from future threats. Since the golden egg came from Fortis Dud, it's something that I cannot forcefully take away. It was his, and he chose Ethan as his representative." The three of the most powerful magical beasts that lived in the Great Eagle Forest glanced at each other before sighing at the same time. "Fine," the white unicorn commented. "Since this is something related to your academy, we will no longer dwell on it. However, are you starting to prepare for the reemergence of the Fomorians in the Shire continent?" "I am," Professor Reinhardt nodded. "The king has also been informed of the situation. For the time being, you can rest easy that there will be no grand invasion happening anytime soon. At most, they will send a handful of elites to scout and gather information. We just need to keep our eyes and ears open so that we can catch them before they can create a foothold here in Eastshire." Professor Reinhardt wasn't afraid of facing the giant Fomorians, who were born for war. What he was wary of were the intelligent ones, who were born with human forms. Since they looked exactly like humans, it would be easier for them to mingle with the people of the land. allowing them to roam everywhere, undetected by the humans, dwarves, elves, beastkins, and fae, who jointly ruled the lands of the Shire continent. It seemed that even in his defenseless state, the mere mention of Lyall's name was enough to make him feel threatened. There, everything will be fine," I said as I lightly patted his head, making his body calm down. Soon, Ethan's body stopped shaking, returning to its peaceful state. "Let's not talk about her again in front of Ethan," I proposed. "Yes," Lily agreed and hugged Ethan tighter. Soon, the two of us also fell asleep, while holding our beloved in a protective embrace. When Ethan woke up the next day, he felt so refreshed, as if he had slept for an entire day. Fortunately, it was the weekend, so there were no classes. The young man then noticed the faint marks that he had left on the beautiful bodies of his two lovers, and felt a pang of guilt. "I overdid it last night," Ethan thought. "I was too excited and became a little rough." Taking out a potion in his hand, Ethan lightly applied it on the marks that he could see. As for those that he couldn't see, he would wait until Luna and Lily woke up before applying some potion on those parts as well. Just as he was applying some potion on Lily's thigh, the young lady's body shuddered, making Ethan raise his head to look at her beautiful face. Although Lily kept her eyes closed and pretended that she was asleep, Ethan already knew that she was awake. However, he didn't say anything and continued to apply the potion on her thigh. What Ethan didn't know was that Lily's thigh was quite sensitive, and one of the parts of her body where she felt very ticklish. As his fingers traced over her smooth skin, her body once again shuddered, as she did her best to stop herself from giggling. As if a switch had been flipped inside Ethan's head, he once again applied some potion on her thigh, only this time, he deliberately moved his finger in a tickling motion, making Lily giggle. Stop," Lily pleaded. "You win, okay?" The young man smirked before planting a kiss on Lily's forehead. "I'm sorry," Ethan said. "You were just so cute that I decided to tease you." "You're such a bully," Lily pouted. "Turn around, Lily." Ethan looked at her with concern. "I want to see if I left marks on your back as well." Seeing his worried look, Lily turned around to show him her back. Truth be told, these small marks that had been left behind due to their lovemaking wasn't a big deal to her. She was certain that they would heal after a day or two, so she wasn't too bothered by them. Ethan didn't know if he should laugh or cry after seeing that Lily's backside was littered with kiss marks. Although she had modest breasts, her buttocks made up for it, and it was more than enough to fan the flames of lust in Ethan's heart. Because of this, he could understand why he had repeatedly left his kiss marks on that location, when he was overwhelmed by lust and love to her lovers. After applying the potion on Lily's backside, Ethan glanced at Luna, who had woken up and was looking in their direction. Currently, Lily was on all fours, with her hips raised, creating a very provocative scene. If not for the fact that Ethan was currently feeling guilty of what happened last night, he might have already taken her subtle invitation and eaten her up for breakfast. "You too, Luna," Ethan said before kissing her cheek. "Show me your back." Luna obeyed and went on all four just like Lily. Seeing that he had left kiss marks on her back as well, Ethan applied potion to it so that it would heal faster. A few minutes later, he had finished doing what he needed. However, there was one problem. The stimulation of seeing his two lovers, with their hips raised side by side, was too stimulating. The young man knew that if he stayed inside the room, the chances of him eating up the offerings in front of him was 100%. But just as he was about to leave, Lily and Luna turned around and pounced on him, pinning him on the bed. "Where do you think you're going, darling?" Lily asked as her hand gripped the hard little guy who was twitching in her hand. "I think it's time for punishment, don't you think?" Luna said in a seductive tone, making Ethan wonder if he should run away or just allow the two beautiful ladies to punish him. We should go to the academy soon." Ethan tried to use the voice of reason to convince the two girls to wear clothes and have breakfast in the inn. "I still need to pack for the trip to the capital." Ethan thought that he made a good excuse, but Lily ignored him and took little Ethan inside her mouth. The young man knew then and there that he had already lost the battle. A minute later, the three people ate each other for breakfast, making Ethan run a little late for his trip to the royal capital. A few hours later, Nicole looked at Ethan with a fed-up expression on his face. The young man had raised the collar of his shirt to hide the kiss marks on his neck. This was Luna's and Lily's revenge for being marked by him all night, so they decided to return the favor. However, when Lillian saw this, she felt envious, so she added a few more kiss marks on Ethan's neck, forcing the young man to wear a collared shirt to hide the evidence of his intimate moments with his lovers. "Let's just go," Nicole said with a sigh. "We can talk later." Without another word, Nicole took off to the skis with her flying broom. Ethan followed behind her with his wind dancer. When the two were a good distance away from the academy, Nicole glanced at the young man and sighed for the second time. "Are you sure you packed the clothes you are going to wear for the ballroom party?" Nicole asked. "We won't have enough time to find you a replacement when we arrive at the capital if you didn't bring it with you." "Don't worry, I brought it with me," Ethan replied. "Good," Nicole nodded. "I went to Dud Manor to look for you last night, but Lillian said that you are not around. I should have known that you're doing some monkey business in Limeberg town." "It's not monkey business," Ethan replied with a straight face. "Sure, whatever you say, Mr. Popular with the ladies." Ethan knew that he wasn't in a position to argue with Nicole because he was the one at fault. For the time being, he just focused on the path ahead of them as they both flew to the nearest town, which had a teleportation gate that would bring them to the royal capital of the Kingdom of Eastshire. After half a day of traveling, which included passing through at least 6 teleportation gates, Ethan and Nicole finally arrived in the capital city of Wisteria, where the royal palace of Eastshire stood for centuries. "We're finally here." Ethan breathed a sigh of relief as he gazed at the castle perched up on top of the mountain that overlooked the city. However, when he saw the giant blade of a sword and its handle that was sticking out at the center of the castle, he couldn't help but wonder if it was really a sword, with the castle purposely built around it. Nicole, who was paying close attention to Ethan's reaction, smiled. She already expected him to be surprised after seeing the castle for the first time. In fact, he was not the only one who felt this way. Nicole felt the same when she first saw the royal castle a few years ago. At that time, their patriarch brought her and the other members of the Estaf family to take part in the king's birthday celebration. But that was only to be expected, because the sight was truly memorable. "Is that really a sword?" Ethan asked. "It is," Nicole replied. "The name of that sword is Clayam Saleh, which translates to the Sword of Light. According to legend, when the battle between the Tuatha De Danann and the Fomorians ended, that sword suddenly appeared on that mountain. In order to ensure that it would be protected from harm, the founder of Eastshire decided to build a castle around it to serve as the sword's sheath until its rightful owner appeared. But even after many centuries, the sword remains in the mountain of Wisteria and will remain there until the promised day when the world descends into darkness. Or so the legend foretold." Sebastian, who was inside Ethan's sea of consciousness, had a solemn look on his face as he looked at the giant sword in the distance. "She looks so lonely," Sebastian said softly. "True," Ethan's other half commented. "She's just like you in the past, waiting in the city of Zentris for your owner to return." Perhaps, due to Sebastian's feelings being transferred to him through their connection, Ethan also felt a little sad as he looked at the sword in the distance. "What's wrong?" Nicole asked, feeling nervous. "No," Ethan replied. "Let's go, I want to rest." Ethan summoned his wind dancer and flew toward the castle in the mountains. Nicole followed behind him with a playful look on her face. When they were only hundreds of meters away in the castle, Ethan's other half told Ethan to stop because there was a barrier in front of them. Ethan couldn't see this barrier, so he decided to activate his X-Vision to see if he could catch a glimpse of it. His blue eyes glowed faintly as he looked in front of him. He immediately saw a barrier that covered the entirety of the mountain, preventing everyone from going in. "Did you sense it?" Nicole asked as she flew in front of Ethan. "And here I thought you would bump into it mid-flight." Since he was still using X-Vision, he saw the naked body of the beautiful lady in front of him, which made him avert his gaze. "Yes," Ethan replied as he deactivated his X-Vision. "How do we proceed from here?" "Simple," Nicole smiled. "Just follow me." Ethan followed behind Nicole as they flew to the side of the mountain. A few minutes later, he saw what seemed to be an open space made of white marble in the center of the forest. According to his estimate, it was at least a mile long, and it was only visible from the sky. Several flying chariots and flying ships were parked hundreds of meters away from the Silver Gate, which Ethan believed was the gateway that would lead them to the castle on top of the mountain. Ethan and Nicole landed a few meters from the gate and were immediately approached by one of the guards guarding the area. "Here is our invitation," Nicole said as she handed the medallion given to her and Ethan by the Grand Archmage of Eastshire. The guard waved his silver baton over the medallion that had the emblem of the wisteria carved on it. The flower on the medallion glowed faintly, which was the proof of their authenticity. "We've been expecting you, Lady Asta, Sir Gremory." The guard gave the two teenagers a respectful bow. "Please, allow me to lead you to the gate." Ethan and Nicole nodded and followed the guard toward the giant silver gate. The silver gate opened slightly, allowing enough space for two people to walk through it side by side. Taking the lead, the guard walked ahead, followed by Nicole and lastly, Ethan. When he stepped inside the gate, Ethan found himself staring at another gate where several guards were stationed. This gate reminded him of the gates of Brynhildr Academy, which served as another checkpoint to ensure that no one would be able to enter the castle grounds unless they were given permission to do so. "Present your medallions," the guard captain wearing white military clothes ordered. Ethan and Nicole raised the hands that were holding the medallions to show them to the guard captain, who went to inspect them. "You may pass," the guard captain said before turning to the guard that accompanied the two teenagers. "Escort them inside the castle and return to your post right after." "Yes, sir," the guard saluted before walking forward. The gates opened wide to allow the three of them to enter. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Nicole asked, and Ethan had to agree with her statement. The path that led to the actual castle was surrounded by blooming flowers, giving the surroundings a fragrant scent. The fragrance made Ethan's mind feel sharper, and he also felt revitalized. Although he was still tired from the journey, that feeling decreased by a good margin. When they arrived at the castle doors, there were two castle maids waiting for them. Both of them seemed to be in their early 20s, and they stood perfectly still, only moving when the two special guests arrived in front of them. "We've been expecting you, Sir Ethan Gremory and Lady Nicole Asta," one of the maids said. "We will be serving as your personal maids during your stay in the castle. If you need anything, feel free to ask us. We will do our best to accommodate all of your requests." "My name is Mary," the maid, who was assigned to Ethan, introduced herself. "My name is Sue," the other maid, who was assigned to Nicole, said with a smile. "Please, follow us as we take you to your rooms." Ethan was worried that Nicole's room and his room would be far from each other. Fortunately, their two rooms were right beside each other, which gave him some peace of mind. "See you at dinner," Nicole said as she entered the room that was assigned to her. "Okay, see you later," Ethan replied before he, too, entered the room that was prepared for him. The moment the door was closed, Mary gave the young man a short tour of his room. "Sir Ethan, I would like to inform you that the date of the party has been moved 2 days from now," Mary stated. "Until then, I will take care of your every need." "Thank you, Mary," Ethan replied. "I'm a bit tired, so I will be resting a bit." "Understood, Sir Gremory," Mary bowed respectfully. "Just call me Ethan when we are alone," Ethan said with a smile. "I'm not good with formalities." Mary returned Ethan's smile, and bowed once more before handing him a silver bell. "If you need me, just ring this bell, Ethan," Mary explained. "I will come to you right away." After saying those words, the castle maid finally left Ethan alone, granting him privacy. "Lilith, come," Ethan ordered. A moment later, a black cat jumped out of his shadow and sat in front of her master. "I'll be taking a bath," Ethan said. "Make sure to not let anyone peep, okay?" "Understood, master," Lilith said in a serious tone. "If that maid comes back to peep, I will scratch her face." "You don't have to go that far. You only need to stop her from coming into the bathroom." "As you will, master," Lilith replied. While Ethan was enjoying a relaxing shower, more flying chariots and flying ships arrived at the base of the mountain. The nobles and high-ranking nobles of the kingdom were starting to gather at the capital, and this was partly due to the two teenagers. At the party, they would personally be knighted by the king, bestowing upon them the title of honorary knights of the kingdom of Eastshire, somewhere in the palace. "Our special guests have already arrived in the castle," Edmund said to the person seated beside him. "Shall we proceed as planned?" "Might as well," the king of the Eastshire kingdom, King Austin, replied. "Good, I'll send them an invitation after dinner. We moved the event for 2 days just for this surprise you prepared, after all. I am looking forward to seeing their performance." An hour later. "Sir Ethan, the Grand Archmage, Lord Edmund, has invited you to have dinner with him in a private room," Mary said. "Will you accept this invitation?" Ethan replied as he lazily propped himself up from the bed. Looking at the clock on the wall, he noticed that it was already 5 in the afternoon, and he had been asleep for nearly 3 hours. "I still feel tired," Ethan thought before yawning. Luna and Lily should have held back earlier. After getting eaten by his lovers for breakfast, Ethan didn't have enough time to rest before having to leave with Nicole to reach the capital city of Wisteria on time. But the Grand Archmage of the kingdom invited him to a private dinner, so it would be rude to reject the invitation. Ethan could only force himself to stand up in order to prepare before meeting Lord Edmund. However, Mary suddenly blocked his path and looked at him with a solemn expression on her pretty face. "Sir Ethan, I'm sorry, but you will need proper attire to meet up with Sir Edmund," Mary said. "Your current clothes are inappropriate for this meeting." Ethan glanced at the mirror in the room and saw himself wearing jeans and t-shirt, which he usually wore whenever he went out of the academy. Even he found his current set of clothes inappropriate for the occasion, so he tried to rummage through his storage ring to find more suitable attire to wear. But before he could find something decent to wear, Mary opened the wardrobe inside his room and took out a set of pants and a black collared shirt with a tie. "Let me help you dress, Sir Ethan," Mary said. "It is my duty to assist you." "Thank you, Mary, but I can dress on my own," Ethan said before taking off his shirt. He then folded it and placed it on top of the bed. Because he was too focused on folding his shirt, he didn't notice that Mary had fallen into a daze as she looked at his chiseled body, which was oozing with masculinity. After folding his shirt, he glanced at the maid who still had her mouth wide open and cleared his throat. "Can you wait outside, Mary?" Ethan asked. "I promise that this will not take long." "Oh, of course, Ethan," Mary replied as she walked towards the door. But as she walked, she gave Ethan one long last glance before finally leaving the room and locking the door behind her. "Poor girl, I bet the bar she set for her future husband just got a little higher," Sebastian chuckled. "She doesn't stand a chance," Ethan's other half replied. "I'm guessing she will become more aggressive in offering her services to Ethan now that she has seen the goods. Now, that is something worth watching. Just wait, I can tell that she's that type of girl." Ethan, who had no idea what the two people from the peanut gallery were talking about, had already removed his jeans and folded them. He then placed it on the bed before picking up the black pants that Mary had prepared for him. "These pants are quite comfortable to wear," Ethan thought. "They also fit me perfectly. Did they already know my body size?" As if to confirm his suspicion, the black collared shirt was also of the right size. After checking himself in front of the mirror, the only thing left for him to do was to put on his tie and button up his shirt. But there was one problem. He didn't know how to wear a tie. "Mary, can you help me with my tie?" Ethan asked. The door in his room immediately opened, as if the maid was waiting for this moment. She then walked towards Ethan and helped him tie his knot properly. After adjusting it, she then carefully buttoned his shirt and used her hands to press on it, as if making sure that there were no creases to be seen whatsoever. Seeing how seriously she was doing her work, Ethan decided to stand completely still until she was finished. After making sure that his clothes had no problems, she asked Ethan to sit on the chair so that she could properly comb his hair. "Your long hair is very beautiful, Sir Ethan," Mary commented. "As a man, I am quite surprised that you are able to care for it properly." This wasn't the first time that someone complimented Ethan's long hair, which he decided to keep as is after spending more than a year in the lands of Alastair. Truth be told, he wasn't doing anything special with his hair, yet it remained silky smooth with a healthy, glossy shine. The reason why his hair was kept in good condition was due to the Tidebringer's blood that had now fully merged with his own blood. Not only did it strengthen Ethan's body, it also improved his physique as well as his good looks. The Tidebringer was known as a lady killer. Just a smile from him was enough for a lady to invite him to her room, which was a common occurrence when he was still in the city of Zentris. After fixing his hair and tying it up with the wolf hair clip that Lily had gifted him, Mary guided the young man toward the designated place where Lord Edmund was waiting for him. As he walked inside the hallway of the castle, several men and women, both young and old, glanced in his direction with appraising looks on their faces. Ethan was already used to being stared at, so he continued to walk at a steady pace, exuding a confidence that he had accumulated from his life experiences. A few minutes later, he finally arrived at the designated room, where Edmund was waiting for him. Mary courteously knocked on the door and announced Ethan's arrival. "Enter." After Lord Edmund's voice sounded from the other side, Mary opened the door and moved to the side, making way for the young man to enter the room. The first one he saw was the old archmage, who was wearing noble attire, which made Ethan feel thankful that Mary stopped him from going out in his jeans and t-shirt. Then his eyes wandered to the beautiful young lady with pink hair beside him, which made Ethan arch an eyebrow. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, making Nicole raise her fist as if threatening him to act properly. The young man smiled and walked towards the chair that was designated for him. Truth be told, he was blown away by Nicole's beauty, which became more pronounced after she dressed accordingly. This was the first time that Ethan had seen Nicole wear a dress, with her hair styled properly. In order to hide his brief moment of falling into a daze, he decided to tease her to give him time to recover. Once he was properly seated, Lord Edmund gestured toward the staff inside the room, signaling them to serve dinner. This was Ethan's first dinner inside the Palace of Wisteria, and frankly, he was itching to find out the real reason why the Grand Archmage had invited him and Nicole to dine with him in private. Ethan had gotten used to eating the delicious food of the Academy, yet he had to admit that the food served in the palace was a little bit fancier and more delicious than what he was accustomed to. During the entirety of the dinner, the three of them talked casually about random topics like their adventures in the domain that belonged to Nightfall Academy, as well as their battle against the dungeon monsters during the dungeon outbreak. The Grand Archmage of Easter didn't ask anything too personal, so the discussion went smoothly, making the atmosphere quite lively. After they were all done eating, Lord Edmund ordered the staff to leave the room. Ethan and Nicole knew that the casual talk was over and that they were about to discuss more important things. As you may already know, this ballroom party is being held not only to celebrate the victory of Otto City against the dungeon outbreak, but to also bestow upon the two of you the titles of honorary knights, Edmund said with a smile. Unfortunately, most nobles are greedy. Every time someone rises in the ranks, they are bound to deal with opposition. Unfortunately for them, the merits that both of you have achieved were enough to silence them. Otto City's importance is known to everyone, so anyone who disagrees with the king's decision to reward the two of you will fall from his grace. But even though they are not saying anything now, it doesn't mean that they will not attempt to mock and even insult you in public. That is just the way of nobles, so I advise the two of you to not pay any heed to them. In fact, it will be best if both of you just ignore them completely. Ethan and Nicole nodded their heads in understanding. Truth be told, Ethan didn't really care about knighthood or any noble titles. If not for the fact that he had made a deal with Chloe's father, Soren, that he would strive to become a noble, he wouldn't have even bothered to show up to the ballroom party. Nicole, on the other hand, was different from Ethan. As someone who grew up in a noble family, she wanted to gain recognition and have a title of her own, separate from the Estaf family. But since her family was one of the pillars that was loyal to the crown, it would not be easy to separate from them. This was also why she decided to take the heir wars seriously. If she couldn't break free from the family, then she would take control of it. That way, she would be able to do what she wanted and change a few rules that the Estaf family had imposed on everyone, including their branch families. Also, there is one more thing, Lord Edmund said with a mischievous smile on his face. Tonight, there is an event that will be held here in the palace. It's called Night and Seek. Night and Seek, Ethan blinked. This is the first time I've heard about it. Nicole's face became solemn after hearing Lord Edmund's statement. Clearly, she knew what this event was because it was a very common game held in the Estaf family. It was a game where the knight would have to hide or fight for a period of time. If they managed to hide or survive until the time limit, then they would win. Simply put, it was a survival game with a handful of people hiding and the rest searching and hunting them down. Hence it was called Night and Seek. After Lord Edmund explained the rules of the game to Ethan, the young man's face also turned serious, just like Nicole's. As I mentioned earlier, there are nobles who don't like the fact that both of you are going to become honorary knights. Although it is the lowest rank of nobility without any real power or lands under its name, it's still a noble rank. It's enough to make them go all out to hunt the two of you, so they can vent out their displeasure. The king will also give a prize to those who manage to hunt either of you, so keep that in mind. What a sick game, Ethan said coldly. I guess this is what nobles refer to as entertainment. It is, Lord Edmund nodded. It allows those in power to watch those below them struggle. Since the king only invites everyone to gather at the palace during special occasions, events like this are hosted to make things more lively. The Grand Archmage then pointed at the door. The moment you leave this room, the game will start, Lord Edmund smirked. The game will end after the two of you are caught, and if you manage to survive until 9 in the evening, then a wonderful prize awaits the two of you. If you survive until the end, the king will personally give the two of you treasures from his personal collection, so do your best to survive until the end, okay? Ethan glanced at Nicole, and the latter nodded her head. The young man then faced the Grand Archmage and asked him a question. Are we allowed to fight back? Ethan inquired. Of course, Lord Edmund answered. However, no one is allowed to kill anyone. Will we be given a grace period to hide? 9 o'clock is just 2.5 hours away. You'll be given exactly 30 minutes to hide. You can hide up to the 3rd floor of the castle as well as outside of it. However, you are not allowed to leave the castle premises. If you leave the castle premises, the game will end, marking the two of you as the losers of the event. By the way, if you choose this method, you will receive a punishment, so it will be best if you just play the game and have fun. Ethan scoffed. Have fun being hunted? Yep, this is definitely going to be fun. So do you have any more questions? Lord Edmund asked playfully. None, Ethan replied. Let's get this over with. Good, Lord Edmund waved his hand. May fortune be in your favor. Before Ethan and Nicole could even do anything, they found themselves in front of the Grand Archmage's room. A moment later, Lord Edmund's voice reached the two teenagers' ears. Your 30-minute grace period starts now. Ethan and Nicole glanced at each other before nodding their heads at the same time. Since the nobles wanted to play a game, they would give them a game that they would not be able to forget anytime soon. Did you hear? Those two little rats have already started running, a teenage noble said with a smile. The game this time is going to be more fun than the previous ones. Indeed, another teenager commented. One is a daughter from the Estaf family, and the other is an upstart commoner. Seriously, I can accept the lady from the Estaf family gaining a title, but a commoner? His Majesty sure likes to jest. Well, according to the reports, he was one of the people that took part in the defense of Otto City, a young lady said. I think that is an achievement in itself, is it not? It is, but so what? A noble snorted. Commoners are commoners. They should be honored to serve the nobles. That's right. Them wanting to become noble themselves is the problem. They should be content with their current position. Ha ha ha. I guess all of us will target the commoner boy then. I saw him earlier, and he's quite handsome. Maybe I should make him my pet or something. Oh, then I'll aim for that as well. It will be a shame to ruin such a handsome face. While the young members of the nobility were busy chatting with each other, the older ones calmly drank wine and waited for the event to start. Although they were adults, some of them still planned to join the game in order to properly teach the two honorary knights some lessons about humility. According to Lord Edmund's estimate, hundreds of people would be simultaneously hunting Ethan and Nicole, whom they were currently monitoring through the floating crystal ball in front of him. How about it, Edmund, the King of Eastshire? King Austin smirked. Shall we make a bet? Sounds fun, Edmund replied. What are we betting on? Those two kids, of course. All right, let me hear the details of the bet. I'll bet that they will be captured in an hour or less, King Austin stated. How about you? I'll bet that they will be able to survive until the event ends, Edmund replied. Oh, you seem pretty confident. King Austin looked at his Grand Archmage with a smile. Well, that boy reminds me of my younger self, Edmund replied. He will not be an easy target even when thousands of people are teaming up to hunt him. Also, Your Majesty, I must warn you beforehand. Warn me about what? There's a possibility that the damage that Ethan and Nicole might make to the palace won't be able to be regenerated in time for the ballroom party. Are you serious? King Austin looked at his Grand Archmage in disbelief, but the latter only shrugged. We'll see in a few minutes, Edmund smiled. By the way, what are we betting on? King Austin lightly tapped the armrest with his hands before holding Edmund's gaze. You already know what I want, King Austin stated. You're too overprotective, Edmund commented. Fine, but I'll only do what I can. And if I win this bet, you will promise me to no longer interfere. Do we have a deal? Deal. Good. After that exchange, both men shifted their gaze to the crystal ball, which showed the young man standing in front of Nicole's guest room. Somewhere in the palace. Do you have any plans? Nicole asked as she hurriedly changed her clothes to something easier to move in. The beautiful dress she wore during dinner lay on the floor, neglected by the young lady who chose practicality over beauty. I do, Ethan replied, but I'm not familiar with the palace. Do you have a place in mind? Nicole asked. Yes, Ethan replied. Take me somewhere with lots of water. If you can take me to a water source, then it will be better. The door of Nicole's room opened, and the young lady came out wearing clothes meant for nights out on field duty. Ethan couldn't help but nod in satisfaction after seeing Nicole's heroic aura, brought upon by her choice of clothes. 9 out of 10, Sebastian commented. Same, Ethan's other half nodded. It was not only Ethan who liked Nicole's choice of clothes. The two members of his peanut gallery also made their thoughts known. The only place that has running water in the castle are the fountains, Nicole replied. Aside from them, I do not know of any other places. Ethan frowned as he quickly formulated a plan inside his head. Take me to the nearest one, Ethan said after a minute had passed. Nicole nodded, and the two ran towards the balcony of her room and took out their flying broomsticks. As long as they didn't leave the palace grounds, it was fine if they used their broomsticks to fly. Expecting that the two teenagers might escape to the palace grounds, several young nobles were spread out inside the palace. So the moment they saw Ethan and Nicole fly past them, smirks appeared on their faces. However, they didn't make any attempt to hunt the two teenagers. The game Knight and Seek had rules, and they weren't allowed to actively follow the two knights even if they saw them fly past. However, it didn't stop them from taking note of the direction they went, which would be the first place they'd head to as soon as the grace period of 30 minutes had ended. "How many minutes are left?" Ethan asked. 10 minutes, Nicole replied. "We still have time. The first fountain is over there." Nicole pointed in the distance, where a fountain that shot water up to 4 meters high up in the air could be seen. Ethan advanced forward and summoned his sea god's trident. He then tapped the bottom of the fountain with his trident before looking in Nicole's direction. "Where is the second nearest fountain?" Ethan asked. "Follow me," Nicole replied. She already had a hunch of what Ethan was trying to do, so she no longer asked questions and simply led him to the second fountain in haste. The king, watching them, found this odd, but he didn't make any comments. All he saw was Ethan dipping the tip of his trident into the fountain before flying away. Edmund, on the other hand, frowned. He heard that Ethan could control water to a certain extent, but since he didn't have the chance to see it firsthand, he was unable to gauge just how proficient he was in controlling water magic. 5 minutes left, Edmund thought as he looked at the hourglass beside him. Similar to King Austin, the Grand Archmage of Eastshire was looking forward to what kind of strategy Ethan was planning to use in this game, where he and Nicole would be hunted down by hundreds of wizards and witches at the same time. "Last 2 minutes," one of the nobles said as he gripped his wand firmly. "This is going to be one fine night." All the other wizards and witches had also drawn out their wands and other magical weapons, prepared to join the hunt. Any type of magic was allowed as long as they didn't use it to kill. But even if they were to attempt to use magic to kill, there was no chance of anyone dying under the Grand Archmage's watch. Lord Edmund had already activated the special runes within the palace grounds to prevent any accidents from happening. If someone were about to die, they would immediately be teleported to the main event hall, preventing them from getting seriously injured by the spells that would be used during the hunt. Although the rule was that killing wasn't allowed, the nobles rarely followed this rule and simply showcased their power in order to attract potential partners during this grand event. 1 minute, King Austin smirked. "Otto has a very high opinion of Ethan. I want to see with my own eyes what he saw in that boy." Edmund didn't say anything, but kept his eyes focused on the crystal ball in front of them. When the last drop of sand fell on the hourglass, all the nobles began to move. The hunt had started, and they wanted to be one of the people to catch one of the knights, which would earn them a reward from the king himself. Ethan and Nicole were also aware that the game had started, but they didn't care. They were heading straight to their 5th fountain with their brooms, flying low to prevent anyone from seeing them from the sky. When Ethan saw their destination, he sped up and dipped the tip of the trident into the water of the fountain. "We got the 3rd of them," Nicole said. "Do you want to head to the next one?" Ethan was tempted to say yes, but he could feel that their pursuers were currently hot in their trails. "Give me a minute," Ethan said as he embedded the sea god's trident on the fountain. "There is something I want to try." Nicole nodded and unsheathed her rapier from its scabbard. She then hovered above Ethan, paying close attention to their surroundings. "All rivers lead to the sea," Ethan muttered. "So hear my call. And come to me." The young man's eyes glowed with power as he burned through his magical reserves. Before coming to the royal palace, he had kissed all of his lovers, the fairies in the garden, and even got Luna's help to store 2 orbs of her condensed magical power inside his body. He even brought 6 magical batteries with him as a backup. It was not an exaggeration to say that Ethan had armed himself to the teeth. His magical power seemed endless, and thanks to his magic circuits, which had shown signs of complete recovery, he was able to store his magic power for a few days without a problem. Suddenly, the castle grounds shook, catching everyone by surprise. Are we under attack? What's this, an earthquake? Don't panic, maybe this is just a short tremor. While all of this was happening, the fountains that the sea god's trident had touched earlier all shot water upward, which reached dozens of meters into the air in great volumes, making it seem like it was raining. 5 fountains did this at the same time, drenching those that were nearby. Ethan, whose eyes were still glowing with magic power, grabbed his spear and pointed it at the sky. Aqua Pandemonium, Ethan roared, and on cue, the sea god's trident shone radiantly, forcing Nicole to cover her eyes. The wizards and witches, who were looking for Ethan's and Nicole's whereabouts, suddenly saw the brilliance in the distance. There, hurry. Damn it. I'll be the first to catch them. Charge. Dozens of wizards and witches flew in the direction of the light. But something unexpected happened, which they didn't foresee. The water droplets in the air all merged together until they were the size of golf balls. A moment later, these water balls shot out toward the wizards and witches at great speeds. When they realized what was happening, it was already too late. Arg. What's happening? It hurts. Mommy. Just like Ethan had declared, was complete pandemonium. With 5 fountains creating a pseudo-rain within the territory where Ethan was, he was in complete control of his element. Now, Nicole, Ethan shouted, breaking the young lady from her daze. Glacies Imbrem. Nicole pointed her rapier towards the helpless wizards and witches who were being hit from all sides. Originally, the game Night and Seek was hosted purely for fun and entertainment, without the need to use powerful spells to hurt anyone. However, the nobles who joined this hunt wanted to hurt them, with some even thinking about killing them. Since that was the case, Nicole decided to not hold back and go for the kill. Countless icicles flew towards her targets, dealing the final blow that turned them into particles of light. The smarter wizards and witches, as well as the adults who joined the fight, formed groups and cast barriers in all directions, preventing them from getting damaged by Ethan's and Nicole's bombardment. Behind you, Sebastian shouted. A moment later, 5 fireballs approached Ethan from the back, but the young man only glanced in their direction before they detonated. Suddenly, a barrier of flames surrounded Ethan, blocking the fireballs that were aimed in his direction. A loud explosion sounded, which made the wizards and witches who had cast the spell rejoice, thinking that they managed to eliminate one of their targets. However, half a minute later, the blazing flames dispersed. The 5 wizards and witches, who had tried to sneak attack Ethan from behind all, looked at the spear that hovered behind his back in disbelief. Just as they thought that they succeeded in eliminating the teenager, it turned out that they made a mistake. Ordinary fire magic was ineffective against Ethan. While they were still reeling from the shock of failing to even harm a strand of hair on their target, a voice filled with killing intent reached their ears. Ibar. A moment later, the spear, Ariad pair, flew in the direction of one of the wizards that had targeted its master from behind. The spear pierced through the wizard's chest, making him turn into particles of light. Ansibar. Ethan commanded, and the spear that had pierced through his target made a U-turn to return to his hand. However, before doing so, it made sure to pierce through the back of a witch, making the latter scream before turning into particles of light. Soon, loud explosions erupted in the surroundings as 2 people fought against dozens of wizards and witches in a game of Night and Seek that would be remembered for years to come. They're in the back gardens. Let's hurry. Don't rush. We should circle around and attack them from behind. Almost everyone in the castle was alarmed when the entire mountain started to shake. Another earthquake. This one is stronger than the first one. The one responsible for this phenomenon was none other than Ethan, who was manipulating the underground source of water to rise up to the surface, making the fountains under his control erupt like volcanoes. "Is this what you were warning me about earlier, Edmund?" King Austin asked. "The one where you said there's a possibility that Ethan and Nicole might cause damage to the palace that wouldn't regenerate in time for the ballroom party?" "Something like that," Edmund replied as the castle shook a third time. While he had expected this, which was why he mentioned it earlier, he still didn't expect that things would end up this way. "By Yggdrasil, just what is that boy doing?" Edmund wanted to slap Ethan silly for making too much of a commotion in the palace. He already anticipated that the boy would use some kind of trick in order to overcome the disparity in numbers. But the Grand Archmage just didn't expect that he would resort to doing something like this. "Should I cancel the event?" Edmund thought as the castle shook a fourth time. "Damn it, I'll have a long talk with this brat later." The Grand Archmage glared at the young man, who was being shown in the crystal ball. Ethan's eyes shone in a bluish light as the ground under his feet shook. However, he was not the least bit bothered by the commotion he was causing. The fountains continued to pump the water out, which had risen dozens of meters in the air. While this was happening, countless water bullets were descending upon everyone. But Ethan knew that this method wouldn't work for a long time. He understood that once the other wizards and witches joined the battle, Nicole and him would have nowhere to go and be pincer attacked on both sides. Because of this, he wasn't just creating water bullets. He was creating a massive water dragon, using one of the fountains that was farther away from everyone. And since it was a distance away from the main battlefield, no one noticed that a monster made up of water was slowly, but surely growing at a rapid pace. Currently, it was only 10 meters long and 2 meters wide, but the more water it absorbed, the bigger it became. A few minutes later, the other nobles who circled around behind Ethan finally arrived at the scene. "Let's go, Nicole," Ethan said as he grabbed the young lady's hand. A moment later, they skidded on the wet ground in front of them as if they were water skiing. Instead of allowing themselves to be pincered, Ethan charged forward in order to position himself right in the middle of the 5 fountains that were spewing water like mini volcanoes. This was his domain. It didn't matter how many enemies he fought. As long as he had a lot of water to manipulate, the numerical advantage that the other side possessed didn't matter. Of course, the adults who had joined the hunt had guessed that Ethan was capable of manipulating water. But they didn't mind it. Some of them also specialized in water magic, so this battlefield was right up their alley. There were also wizards and witches who specialized in ice magic. And they were working together to freeze the fountains in order to stop the water from gushing out of the ground like geysers. At first, they managed to block 2 of the fountains, but when they were trying to freeze the 3rd fountain, something unexpected happened. A giant water dragon that was hundreds of meters long charged in their direction and annihilated them, turning them all into particles of light. It then used its body to destroy the ice that covered the fountains, allowing the water to continue to gush out, further increasing its size. "Edmund," King Austin called out in a solemn tone, "I think it's about time to stop this before people really get hurt." "Yes, Your Majesty," Edmund replied before he disappeared inside the room. He then reappeared a few seconds later in front of Ethan, catching the young man by surprise. "Okay, game's over," Edmund said with a helpless look on his face. "The 2 of you have won this game of Knight and Seek, so can you make that thing behave?" The Grand Archmage used his thumb to point at the water dragon behind him, which was now over 150 meters long. Ethan nodded, but just as he was about to disperse the water dragon, a flash of light appeared, and the giant monster was sliced in half. The young man's gaze widened in shock when he saw a young lady, who seemed to be in her late teens, look in his direction with silver eyes that were as calm as the surface of a lake. They gazed at each other for a few seconds before the young lady disappeared as quickly as she appeared. The The water dragon that she had cut earlier dispersed into countless water droplets, which harmlessly rained down on the palace grounds. Edmund, who had also seen the young lady, wasn't surprised when she appeared. In fact, the reason why he came to stop Ethan was to prevent the teenage boy from being targeted by the castle's guardian, who would awaken once she sensed any threats in her surroundings. Ethan and the guardian only gazed at each other for a few seconds, but in the span of those few seconds, the world seemed to have come to a complete stop. At that moment, when everyone was frozen in time, the young lady opened her lips and spoke 4 words before disappearing completely. "Well met, Tidebringer." Ethan could have sworn that he was just imagining things because Sebastian and his other half didn't see the young lady nor hear the words she had spoken before she disappeared. However, he knew that what he saw was real, which made him wonder who the young lady was and why her gaze felt as sharp as the blade of the giant's sword, which had been embedded in the mountain of Wisteria for over 1,000 years. In order to prevent any acts of violence towards Nicole and Ethan, the Grand Archmage, Lord Edmund, personally escorted them back to the palace while telling everyone that the game had come to an end. Just as he expected, the nobles were unwilling to let the matter end in this manner. But when Lord Edmund mentioned that he had done it under the king's orders, all the nobles had no choice but to accept his decree. However, that didn't stop them from glaring at the 2 teenagers who had made a mess of the palace grounds, as well as gotten all of them soaking wet. Ethan felt a little guilty, but he didn't regret what he did. In the end, he chose the only method at his disposal to survive, and he used it to the best of his abilities. It seems we can only use half of the garden for the party in 2 days' time." Edmund sighed after they were finally away from the gazes of the nobles. "I just hope that His Majesty will not deduct the garden repairs from my salary." Ethan pretended that he didn't hear the Grand Archmage's words, while Nicole only smiled as if she found this whole scenario funny. "Anyway, just stay inside your rooms for now, and don't come out until the day of the party," Edmund stated in a serious tone. "Understand?" "Yes." "Okay." Edmund nodded good night, and may the 2 of you sleep well, knowing that both of you will be remembered by all the nobles here in the palace for the next few years because of this incident. The Grand Archmage shook his head before vanishing on the spot, leaving Ethan and Nicole behind. "Good night, Ethan," Nicole said with a smile. "That was fun. Let's do it again sometime." You still want to do something like that again?" Ethan glanced at the beautiful lady with a bitter smile on his face. "Good night. I'll see you tomorrow." Without another word, Ethan got inside his room and closed the door firmly behind him. Since his and Nicole's rooms were right next to each other, it would not be difficult to see each other even when they were forbidden to wander around the palace due to the commotion that they had made. "I'm so tired," Ethan said as he took off his clothes. However, he still went to take a quick shower to make himself feel more comfortable. When he was done, he used his water magic to dry himself up. He was simply too tired, so after pulling on his underwear, he laid down on the bed to sleep. It didn't take long for Ethan to fall asleep, because he was truly exhausted from what he had done earlier. Lilith, who hadn't made her appearance during the battle, appeared beside Ethan. She gazed at his peaceful sleeping face before an idea popped inside of her head. "I might not get a chance to do this once he returns to the academy," Lilith thought. "It's now or never." The black cat jumped off the bed and took on her catkin form. She then removed her clothes until all of them were on the carpeted floor, including her underwear. Lilith then laid down beside Ethan and wrapped her hands around his head. Ethan stirred when he felt someone touching him, but sensing that the person didn't mean him any harm and had a familiar scent, he subconsciously moved to snuggle with that person. After spending a lot of time with Ethan, Lilith was already familiar with what her master was like, especially during the time when he was defenseless like this. She had always been present whenever he spent the night with Lily, Luna, and Emma, and during those times, Ethan would subconsciously rest his head on their breasts just like a baby would do when they were in their mother's embrace. Lilith lightly patted Ethan's head and even hummed a lullaby for him. Soon, the steady breaths of a deep sleeper faintly reached her ears. The young lady didn't wish to do anything that Ethan would hate, so she didn't take advantage of his defenseless state any further. This is good enough, Lilith thought as she shared her warmth with the young man whom she was oath-bound to protect, at least for now. She then closed her eyes to sleep, enjoying this rare moment of intimacy with the handsome young man who was loved by many beautiful ladies who had tied their destinies with his. Meanwhile, somewhere in the palace, although we had no choice but to stop the event, I consider this as my win, Edmund said as he poured himself a glass of wine. You better keep your word, your majesty. King Austin clicked his tongue, but he had no choice but to nod his head. A deal was a deal. Also, he now had an idea of what Ethan was capable of doing, which confirmed Mayor Otto's and Edmund's report about the teenage boy's abilities. He made Zier appear, King Austin commented. That was a close call. If you hadn't stopped him, she might have cut Ethan in half. Indeed, Edmund nodded. That was a close one. He managed to threaten the palace and the Sword of Light, forcing our guardian to awaken and eliminate the threat. Fortunately, she focused on the water dragon. If something happened to Ethan, many people would be very angry. King Austin sighed. Next time, make sure to not bring him somewhere with a water source. We don't want another incident like this to happen. Next time, Edmund arched an eyebrow. You plan to invite him a second time. King Austin gave his right-hand man the, I just slipped okay, glance, making the Grand Archmage chuckle. Anyway, make sure to pass the message to the nobles that the awarding ceremony will proceed as planned, King Austin stated. What if they cause trouble during the party? Edmund asked. As long as they don't go past my bottom line, then it's fine, King Austin answered. Since both of them will become honorary knights of the kingdom, they will have to get used to socializing with the nobles of Eastshire. Edmund nodded his head in understanding before drinking the wine in his cup. He knew that the king was right. It would be best if Ethan understood how the social circles of the nobility worked, so that he wouldn't be used as a pawn by the high-ranking nobles. Edmund was worried that Ethan was too ignorant of such things, so he decided to let the young man experience the good and the bad sides of being a noble early on, allowing him to better understand the geopolitical wars that were happening within the kingdom of Eastshire. Why are you here? Ethan asked. Well, why can't I be here? Nicole rhetorically replied. I mean, can't you eat your breakfast in your own room? Eating alone is not my cup of tea. Also, staying inside my room is boring. I'd rather we talk about the things that we need to watch out for during the ballroom party. The two maids, Mary and Sue, dutifully placed plates of food on top of the table. Nicole wished to have breakfast with Ethan, so she asked Sue to come with her to the young man's room and have her meals set up there. Of course, Ethan didn't mind, but he was quite surprised to hear that Nicole preferred to eat with people, since he had the impression that the young lady was a lone wolf who liked to do things solo. Ethan, let me give you some friendly advice, Nicole said as she poured honey on the pancake on her plate. The Astaff family can't be trusted. Understood, Ethan nodded. You can't be trusted. Nicole ignored Ethan's reply and continued her explanation. There are 4 factions among the noble families, Nicole explained. The conservative faction likes to keep the status quo. These are the families who are actively working in the background to ensure that the 4 Shire kingdoms will be able to coexist in peace. They are the diplomats of Eastshire, who have formed connections with the nobles or ruling families of the other Shire territories and would coordinate with them for trade and other beneficial projects. The second faction is the radical faction. This faction is pushing for the so-called noble supremacy, giving more power to the nobles. The Kerr family, which Langston belongs to, is part of the radical faction. They don't wish to harm the benefits of the noble families, and they are starting to expand their reach outwards, targeting neutral groups like wizard academies, including Brynhildr Academy. They want to educate, the next generation of wizards and witches that will be serving under noble families, so working with them will give them the most benefits. Ethan frowned, but he didn't say anything to disrupt Nicole's explanation. He understood that politics between nobles was a very messy business, and if possible, he wanted to steer clear of their drama. The third faction is the military faction, Nicole said with a smile. This one is just as troublesome as the radical faction. However, instead of noble superiority, they aim to strengthen the military force of the kingdom in preparation for expansion. Expansion meaning. Ethan had a bad feeling about the military faction, and he hoped that he was just overthinking things. Nicole smirked because she could tell what Ethan was thinking. The military faction is building a strong army with the excuse of protecting the realm. However, it is very clear that they are meant to expand the kingdom by taking the territories of our neighbors. The Asta family is part of the military faction. Sebastian, who was inside Ethan's sea of consciousness, could only smile after hearing Nicole's reply. Humans never change, Sebastian commented. They are a greedy bunch. True, Ethan's other half commented. It will be best if we just conquer Easter and make it Ethan's kingdom. Now that is something I can agree to. We better start raising our armies then. Let's. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose because the peanut gallery inside his head was planning out loud. Ethan's other half even proposed that they should talk to the beastkins, elves, and dwarves, and proposed to work together with Ethan on toppling the current royal family of Eastshire, to which Sebastian agreed wholeheartedly. And what is the last noble faction? Ethan asked. Also, are you fine talking about this stuff while Mary and Sue are both here with us? Sir Gremory, please treat me as furniture, Mary stated. I don't exist. What are you talking about, Sir Gremory? Sue inquired. I was so busy admiring your handsome features that I wasn't paying attention to anything else. Did Lady Asta say something? The two maids smiled sweetly at the young man, whom they found endearing. As palace maids, they were well aware of the different factions among the nobles, so hearing this information wasn't a big deal to them. Ethan, Mary, and Sue are more knowledgeable about Easter than you are, Nicole said. They might even know more things that I am not aware of, so if you have time, feel free to ask Mary about anything. Lady Asta is right, Sir Ethan, Mary replied. You can even ask about my 3 sizes and the color of the underwear that I am wearing today. I will not hesitate to answer Sir Gremory's questions. See, Nicole smirked before eating a piece of the pancake on her plate. Ethan shook his head helplessly and began to eat as well. After taking 2 more bites of her pancake, Nicole resumed her explanation. The last faction is the neutral faction, Nicole stated. These people are only loyal to the crown and don't dabble too much in politics. The Oswald family, which Luna belongs to, is part of the neutral faction. Since they are neutral, they didn't really care about the workings of the 3 other factions. Unfortunately, the other 3 factions are always doing their best to convert these neutral families to become part of their group. Some even resort to bribes and threats to make it happen, which is a very sad thing. Ethan narrowed his eyes after hearing that the neutral families were being targeted. He had lived with Luna's family during the winter break, and he had seen how warm and caring they were. If such a family were to be forced to join the messy politics of the noble families, Ethan would not stand idly and let it happen. Usually, high-ranking nobles suggest matchmaking to the nobles of lower rank, Nicole continued. This is their tried and true method to pull a neutral family under their umbrella. Also, can you stop making that scary face as if you're going to kill someone? You should relax. The Oswald family has very strong ties with the father of our current king. He will not turn a blind eye to those who wish to drag the Oswald barony to this messy political game. They'd better not, Ethan replied. This is what I hate and like about you, Nicole sighed. You're very predictable when it comes to the people you care for. This is the problem with having many lovers. You have too many weaknesses, Ethan. Ethan neither affirmed nor denied Nicole's statement. If someone tried to harm his lovers, he would do everything in his power to destroy these people. Now that I've told you about the 4 factions, let's talk about something else, Nicole said. Let's talk about a strategy that will make it hard for the nobles to approach you. Ethan arched an eyebrow as he looked at the mischievous smile on Nicole's face. Clearly, she was having fun talking to Ethan about the games that nobles like to play. An hour later, Ethan learned the do's and don'ts when dealing with noble families. Ethan's other half laughed inside Ethan's head after hearing the young lady's pointers. "She's right, you know," Ethan's other half commented. "But I'm afraid that those pointers will not have an effect, especially after the incident that happened last night." "That's true," Sebastian nodded. "In fact, some of those nobles might even find you more endearing if you do as Nicole tells you. It makes me wonder if she is doing this to help you or is simply playing a prank on you." Ethan blinked once then twice before asking Nicole a question. "Are you playing a prank on me?" Ethan asked. "Of course not," Nicole replied. However, the young lady averted her gaze, making Sebastian and Ethan's other half laugh inside his head. The ballroom party would take place the next day, and the 2 people inside Ethan's head were eagerly looking forward to the results of Nicole's pointers, which they believed had a 50-50 chance of working in the favor of the noble families of Eastshire. While Ethan and Nicole were having breakfast, several wizards and witches were hard at work to restore the beauty of the palace gardens. The damage that Ethan caused during the night and seek game was pretty extensive. The 5 fountains had been completely destroyed, and only a big hole filled with water could be seen in its location. Those who specialized in earth magic all worked together to block up these holes and fix the damage in their surroundings. Rebuilding the fountains took time, so Edmund decided to do it after the ballroom party. Since the main event was being held in the event hall, it would be good enough even if they only used the West Gardens for those who wanted to gather and socialize outside of the palace. While the restoration project was being done outside, the last-minute adjustments for the party were in full swing. Almost all the maids in the palace, with the exception of Mary and Sue, were busy making last-minute changes. There were certain things that Edmund had added in order to bolster the defenses of the interior of the palace, just in case something unexpected were to happen. He already knew that after the incident that happened last night during the night and seek game, the nobles would either be impressed or hate Ethan even more for what he had done. Fortunately, the Grand Archmage had forbidden the 2 teenagers from appearing anywhere in the palace, which allowed the young nobles to cool their heads, especially those who had been defeated during the event. King Austin was also busy sorting out his personal collection of magical artifacts. Although the event had ended prematurely, it didn't change the fact that Ethan and Nicole had won it by default. Since that was the case, he would need to reward the 2 teenagers for their victory, which was why he was organizing his collection, which he hadn't touched for years. Of course, he didn't add any of the dangerous or cursed magical artifacts to his collection. The last thing he wanted to do was to harm the 2 promising talents of his kingdom, whom Edmund believed would become the future pillars of Eastshire. Suddenly, his wife, Queen Evan, entered the room with a smile. "Hey, can I meet with those 2 children from Brynhildr Academy?" Queen Evan asked. "Why are you asking me for permission?" King Austin arched an eyebrow. "You are the queen. You are free to do whatever you want." "I just heard that they were under room arrest, so I thought that they were not allowed to meet with guests," Queen Evan replied. "That is true for the noble families, but you are the queen," King Austin said with a smile. "You can go wherever you want here in the palace." Queen Evan nodded. "Good. Do you want me to invite them to have lunch with us?" King Austin glanced at the clock hanging on the wall and saw that there were still at least 2 hours before lunch. "Sounds like a good plan," King Austin replied. "I'll join you as soon as I finish sorting my stuff. There are a few things here that are too dangerous for the 2 of them to use." Queen Evan then gave her husband a light peck on the cheeks before heading towards the guest rooms where Ethan and Nicole were currently staying. However, when she arrived at her destination, she realized that there was another person who had also come to visit their two guests. "Good day, Your Majesty." The patriarch of the Asta family, Oscar Asta, bowed his head respectfully when he met the Queen in the hallway. Queen Evan's mood immediately turned sour after seeing one of the nobles from the military faction. However, she didn't let it show on her face, having been used to keeping her poker face at the ready whenever she was out in public. "Good day, Sir Asta." Queen Evan gave the man a brief nod of acknowledgement. "Are you perhaps here to visit our two honorary knights?" "That was my intention, Your Majesty," Oscar replied. "Are you perhaps on your way to see them too?" Queen Evan nodded. "Yes, would you like to join me?" She already had a guess on why Oscar wanted to meet Ethan and Nicole, but she kept this to herself. For now, she decided to just accompany the old man so that he wouldn't do or say anything funny while meeting the two teenagers. "I would love to, Your Majesty." Oscar placed his hand over his chest and bowed respectfully. "After you." The patriarch of the Asta family moved aside, allowing the Queen of the Kingdom to pass. Queen Evan didn't plan to delay her meeting with Ethan and Nicole, so she walked ahead, with Oscar trailing several steps behind her. When they arrived at their destination, the head maid of the palace knocked on the door to inform the occupants of the Queen's arrival. Of course, the two teenagers didn't hesitate to welcome the Queen together. However, when Nicole's gaze landed on Oscar, the smile on her face stiffened. Oscar looked at the young lady, who was part of his family, with a calm gaze, before shifting his attention to the handsome young man standing beside her. "So this is that boy that Luca was talking about." Oscar gave the young man an appraising look. Luca was one of the candidates who had challenged the same dungeon as Nicole during the Air Wars. Unfortunately, he was forced to abandon the trial halfway due to the dungeon outbreak. Even so, he still shared the news of what happened to their patriarch, which piqued Oscar's interest. As one of the Knights of the Kingdom, he knew full well how difficult it was to defend a city against a dungeon outbreak. Because of this, he made sure to remember Ethan's name. After being invited to the palace by the king to celebrate Ethan's and Nicole's awarding ceremony, Oscar decided to clear his schedule so that he could come to the palace. He arrived an hour after the night and seek game had ended, and was told by his peers what had happened. As one who had spent the prime of his life on the battlefield, a single glance was enough to tell him that the boy in front of him wasn't simple. In fact, he could feel a great danger lurking inside the depths of his eyes, which could only be sensed by people like him whose hands were covered in blood. "I heard from the reports that he managed to return to the present after being sent to the past through a nexus," Oscar mused as he continued to observe the young man, who was currently having a friendly chat with the Queen of Eastshire. It seems that Nicole managed to bring a strong ally to help her in the Air Wars. I wonder if this will have an effect on the outcome of the selection for the next heir. Oscar didn't believe one bit that Nicole would win the Air Wars, especially since there were two monsters that dominated the rankings of the Asta family. She might be competent and resourceful, but she was still too young and too inexperienced to fight against her older cousins, who had spent a lot of time hunting the most notorious criminals that threatened the peace of the Kingdom of Eastshire. Well then, I guess there is something to look forward to in tomorrow's event, Oscar thought. "Ethan Gremorny, I wonder if you are a blessing or a curse to our kingdom." Oscar could feel it in his bones that the young man before him could either help Eastshire prosper and grow stronger, or be one of the people responsible for its destruction. "Ha, that old fart finally left," Queen Evan said grumpily. "He's already this old, so why does he still not kick the bucket? It must be hard on you, Nicole." "I'm used to it, Your Majesty," Nicole replied. Ethan only sipped his tea quietly as he listened to the conversation. Just like Queen Evan had said, Oscar had stayed inside his room for nearly half an hour before leaving. The man didn't say anything and just sat quietly on the side, listening to their conversation. Even so, Ethan was certain that the patriarch of the Asta family was sizing him up. This wasn't the first time that something like this had happened, so he was already used to it. Ethan had met many powerful people in the past, and he had to admit that Oscar Estah, who stood above the Estah family, was an impressively strong person. While he didn't want to brag that he was capable of defeating everyone as long as the battle was at the sea, he started to reconsider this way of thinking after meeting the patriarch of the Estah family. His gut instinct was telling him that even if they fought at the sea, the one who would emerge victorious was the old man he had met a while ago. For Ethan, this was supposed to be an impossible thought. He had this unshakable confidence that as long as he was fighting in his home court, he was unstoppable. So for him to feel that he couldn't beat Oscar in a sea battle was unnerving. But he trusted his instincts. Seeing his solemn expression, Sebastian and his other half both smiled. "You've grown, Ethan," Sebastian commented. "For you to acknowledge the disparity in strength proves that you've reached a standard where you can gauge someone's ability correctly." "Sebastian and I never said anything because we wanted you to discover on your own that there would always be someone stronger than you," Ethan's other half stated. "Even if you fought at the sea, some people are bad counters for your ability. That old man was one of them." "Do you know what his specialty is?" Ethan inquired. "Space magic," Ethan's other half replied. "This means that he's a very tricky opponent that you can't fight using brute force." "If you were to fight him, will you win?" Ethan asked. "Easily," Ethan's other half answered in a heartbeat. His voice was filled with confidence, showing how sure he was about winning against the patriarch of the Estah family. Queen Yvain, who thought that Ethan was intimidated by Oscar because he was staring blankly in front of him, smiled as she engaged him in conversation. "Ethan, are you okay?" Queen Yvain asked. "Did that old fart do anything to you? Just say the word and I'll have him kicked outside of the palace today." The two maids behind the queen both pinched the bridges of their noses at the same time, as if they were about to suffer from a major headache. Seeing their expression, Ethan couldn't help but feel amused because Queen Yvain looked like a very easygoing woman, despite her position as the queen of the kingdom. "I'm fine, Your Majesty," Ethan replied. "I was just lost in thought." Queen Yvain nodded in understanding. "Truth be told, I was looking forward to meeting you today," Queen Yvain stated. "You see, I was taking a bath when the castle started shaking, so I thought that we were under attack. My maids even rushed inside the bathhouse and urged me to put some clothes on so that they could take me to a safe place to hide. Fortunately, the misunderstanding was cleared up before I could take my daughter with me to the underground bunker. You really gave us a fright, young man." Ethan could only apologize for the inconvenience that he had caused the beautiful woman sitting in front of him. Before coming to the palace, he had always wondered what the king and queen were like. But after seeing how humble and friendly Queen Yvain was, his earlier notions that the members of the royal family must be stuck up and arrogant vanished instantly. "My spies in Brynhildr Academy told me that you have a very colorful love life." Queen Yvain suddenly dropped a bomb out of the blue. "Excluding Nicole, you have at least 4 other ladies who are very intimate with you. It is good to be young, but you should also practice moderation, okay?" Ethan blinked once, then twice, as he looked at the queen, who had a mischievous smile on her face. Seeing his reaction, the beautiful woman giggled because she liked what she was seeing. "What's there to be surprised about?" Queen Yvain asked in a teasing tone. "Brynhildr Academy is in Eastshire, so it's normal for me to know things that are happening there, you know." "Ethan, it's not that complicated," Nicole said with a smile. "Lord Edmund visited Brynhildr Academy recently, so of course, Her Majesty would know more about you from him." Queen Yvain chuckled, not even mad that Nicole had blown her cover. It was indeed due to the Grand Archmage's report that she was able to know things about Ethan. The more things she heard about him, the more she wanted to meet him, and she had to admit that she liked what she was seeing. "My daughter and my son will be attending the ballroom party tomorrow," Queen Yvain stated. "I do hope that you get along with them. Also, my husband is busy preparing your rewards for winning the Knight and Seek game, so look forward to it." The queen stayed for an hour longer before bidding her goodbye. She had a great talk with Ethan and Nicole and even invited the two to have dinner with her, which they readily accepted. When they were certain that the queen and her entourage had finally left, Ethan sighed and leaned on the couch. "I didn't expect Her Majesty to be such a chatty person," Ethan said. "She's only like that in private, Ethan," Nicole commented. "In public, she always wears a poker face." "Then why did she not hide her character when Oscar Esta was here earlier?" Ethan inquired. "Because she doesn't need to," Nicole answered. "I forgot to tell you something important. Queen Evan is also from the Esta family." "Huh. Bet you didn't see that coming, huh?" Nicole smirked, because not many knew this secret. In fact, she only happened to know about this because she was there when Queen Evan confronted the patriarch of the Esta family, when Oscar was about to send Nicole and her mother to the countryside so that they would no longer be part of their family. Nicole's mother was already struggling with a disease that couldn't be cured, even after using the best healing magic and potions in the kingdom. But Nicole's mother had once served as Queen Evan's maid when she was still healthy, so the Queen of the Kingdom refused to let them suffer any injustice and protected them from the shadows of the Esta family. In Queen Evan's eyes, Nicole might as well be her niece, so she made sure that Oscar gave Nicole's mother good accommodations, despite the fact that she wasn't contributing anything to the growth of the Esta family. For this reason, Nicole decided to take the burden of having the Esta family name and did her best to show Oscar that she was a very capable individual. Due to her hard work, she was hailed as one of the geniuses of the family. But this was far from the truth. Nicole had no choice but to excel in all fields so that her mother would continue receiving the best medical help from the family. She understood that Oscar wasn't a charitable person and would ask her to pay her dues sometime in the future. Nicole was also certain that her participation in the air wars was decided by the old man on a whim, but that was fine. Since there was an opportunity to become the next heir of the Esta family, she would grab this opportunity with both hands and fight all the other candidates with everything she had. This was the only way that she could guarantee that her mother would continue to receive the best medical care despite being in a coma for 3 years. "Just make sure to not tell anyone about this," Nicole stated. "The true background of Queen Evan is hidden behind a wall of lies. The current and the previous king know about it, but aside from them and a select few, no one else knows that Her Majesty has the Esta blood running through her veins." Ethan casually took a sip of the tea, which had already grown cold due to his negligence. After he was done drinking, he returned the cup on top of the table and frowned. "Then why are you telling me this?" Ethan asked. "I told you this to serve as your lucky charm." Nicole smiled sweetly. "Sometimes, blackmail is also a powerful tool to prevent others from looking for trouble for you." Ethan could only shake his head helplessly because he understood where Nicole was leading him. With this information at hand, if ever Oscar did something to threaten him, he could threaten him back with this information. Although he didn't know if this was enough of a deterrence to make Oscar leave him alone, he decided to accept Nicole's goodwill and arm himself with the knowledge that was now at his disposal. When Queen Evan finally returned to her room, she was pleasantly surprised to see a beautiful young lady seated on the couch and waiting for her. "Welcome back, Mother." A young lady with dark brown hair and hazel eyes greeted her with a smile. "Did you come to meet Nicole and her friend?" "I did," Queen Evan said as she walked toward her daughter so that she could sit beside her. "How long have you been waiting, Eva?" "I didn't wait that long, Mother," Princess Evangeline, who was usually called Eva by her family, replied. "Besides, I wanted to talk to you as soon as you were done chatting with them." "Oh," Queen Evan smirked. "Are you perhaps here to hear about juicy gossip? That's not very princess-like, my dear." "I inherited your genes, Mother," Princess Eva said in an innocent tone. "You make it sound like it's a bad thing." "Of course not. I'm very happy to have gotten all of your good traits." Queen Evan shook her head helplessly before holding her daughter's hand in her own. "So, what is he like?" Princess Eva asked. "Did he get a passing grade from you?" "He barely passed," Queen Evan replied. But he still passed right. That he did. Princess Eva looked at her mother with an expectant gaze, making Queen Evan sigh. "You'll be meeting him tomorrow, so stay put for now," Queen Evan stated. "But I'm not sure if this prank of yours will have the results that you are hoping for." Princess Eva giggled after hearing her mother's words. "Whether I get the results I want or not doesn't really matter, Mother," Princess Eva replied. "But I do feel sorry for him. This is payback for the things he did to our family." "He doesn't know anything, okay?" Queen Evan reminded. "He's in the dark." "Which is better?" Princess Eva's smile widened. "He will not know what hit him." "You're so mean and evil," Queen Evan chuckled. "It's a shame that you inherited your father's bad traits." "Well, I can't be perfect, can I?" Princess Eva shrugged. "Sometimes I feel envious of who can just throw caution to the wind and not care about anything else." "Well, that is the burden we bear as the members of the royal family," Queen Evan said softly, while giving her daughter's hand a light squeeze. "But unlike the two of us, I'm more worried about your brother. He can be too overprotective, and I'm sure that he will not sit still tomorrow." Princess Eva giggled. "Wouldn't that be better? As frail, precious ladies, we should let the men do the talking for us." The maids of the princess and the queen could only sigh in their hearts, because none of them believed the words that Princess Eva had just said. These two frail ladies had enough political power and influence to move entire mountains if they wished. The only thing that was stopping them from doing so were their morals and their genuine love for their kingdom. "I'm sure that tomorrow is going to be exciting," Princess Eva said, her hazel eyes glowing faintly with power. "I can't wait to see the drama unfold." "Me too," Queen Evan nodded. "I'm sure that this knighting ceremony is going to be a blast." Somewhere in the palace, King Austin suddenly felt a chill run down his spine, which made him look over his shoulder. Seeing that nothing was there, he subconsciously rubbed his forehead. He had a very bad feeling about it. "My daughter must be thinking of something bad again," King Austin muttered. "By Yggdrasil's leaf, I sure hope that I'm just overthinking things." King Austin knew that the ladies of his family were a handful. Once they decide to do something, they would do it all the way. Sometimes it was amusing, but more often than not, he was forced to clean up their mess. With such an important gathering happening the next day, the king could only pray that his wife and daughter would not cause trouble during Ethan's and Nicole's knighting ceremony. Anyone would jump at the opportunity to dine with the queen of the kingdom. But for Ethan, such a big deal was something he just wanted to get over with. "I've only been in the palace for a day and a half, and I'm already feeling exhausted," Ethan said as Mary combed his hair. "If any of the nobles here were to hear you say this, Sir Ethan, I'm afraid that they would start a riot," Mary commented. "Everyone wants to form connections with the royal family. They would even go as far as to do them big favors. But you, on the other hand, just want to go back to Brynhildr Academy and continue your studies. Perhaps this is the reason why the queen wants to get close to you, Sir Ethan. Everyone around her does nothing but flatter her to the point of being superficial, but you don't. That is why she is comfortable in your company." Ethan sighed in his heart after hearing Mary's comment. He didn't dislike Queen Evan. In fact, he was even happy that someone like her was the Queen of Eastshire. However, this didn't change the fact that Ethan didn't want to be in the limelight. But since he had an agreement with Chloe's father, Sauron, he decided to endure and wait until the end of the event. In order for him to marry Chloe, Sauron stated that he must at least reach the nobility rank of a marquess. Only this way could Chloe's father approve of Ethan having many lovers. Nobles were known to have more than one wife if they wished, so this was the compromise that the two of them had agreed upon. He had given Ethan 5 years to accomplish this monumental task, and truth be told, he was certain that the boy wouldn't be able to reach that rank of nobility, even if he had been given 10 years to do so. An honorary knight was the lowest rank of nobility. They did not even have lands of their own. But Ethan knew that he had to start somewhere, so he'd just take what was given to him. Also, he was curious about his background. He had 4 protector clans protecting him, so he was certain that his identity wasn't simple. While he was deep in his thoughts, his personal maid, Mary, had finished combing his hair and tied it using the wolf hairpin that Ethan always used. "I'm done, Sir Ethan." "Thank you, Mary." Ethan then stood up to look for Nicole so that the two of them could go to dinner together. When he opened the door, he found the young lady already waiting for him. "You look beautiful in that dress, Nicole," Ethan said with a smile. "I know," Nicole replied. "You're not too shabby yourself." "Well then, shall we go?" Ethan raised his arm, allowing Nicole to hold on to it. "Let's." Nicole nodded as she placed her hand on Ethan's arm, allowing the latter to escort her like the gentleman that he was. Sue walked in front of them, while Mary stayed in the back. They would be dining in the Queen's room, where she usually entertained her guests. When they arrived at their destination, Sue knocked on the door twice before making her announcement. "Lady Asta and Sir Ethan have arrived, Your Majesty," Sue announced. "Enter." Mary and Sue opened the doors before moving to the side and bowing their heads. When Ethan and Nicole entered the room together, they immediately saw Queen Evan sitting on the couch. Beside her was a beautiful young lady in her late teens. "This is the first time you're meeting her, Ethan, so allow me to introduce my daughter," Queen Evan said. "This is Princess Evangeline, and she will be joining us tonight. Eva, this is Sir Ethan Gremory. He will be the one who will receive the title of Honorary Knight, alongside Nicole, tomorrow. Of course, you already know Nicole, so there's no need for introductions." Nicole made a curtsy, which Princess Evangeline returned. "It's a pleasure to meet you again, Your Highness," Nicole greeted. "The pleasure is mine, Nicole," Princess Evan replied. "Greetings to you and Sir Ethan." Ethan politely bowed to the Princess of the Kingdom. Just like her mother, Princess Evangeline was a beauty. However, there was something about her that made Ethan raise his guard. "It seems that my charms don't work on Sir Ethan," Princess Eva said with a smile. "Is this the confidence of a man who has many beautiful ladies beside him? Well, I can understand because Nicole is much more beautiful than I am." "Surely you jest, Your Highness," Nicole replied. "How can I be more beautiful than you?" "Then why is Sir Ethan not fawning over me?" Princess Eva asked in a teasing tone. "Do you know the reason why, Nicole?" "Maybe you should ask him yourself, Your Highness." Perhaps I'll ask him later after we finish dining." The two girls chatted casually, making Queen Evan giggle. "All right, let's leave the small talk for later," Queen Evan said before standing up. "Let's all go into the dining room to eat." Ethan and Nicole followed their host and sat in their designated seats. A minute later, the servants of the palace started to place the dishes on top of the table. "I hope you enjoy the food," Queen Evan said as she made a gesture for everyone to start eating. "The chefs did their best to prepare these for the two of you." Ethan and Nicole thanked Queen Evan for her hospitality and began to eat. Just like all the food in the palace, the various dishes served were all very delicious. Queen Evan and Princess Eva took turns asking Ethan and Nicole questions during their meal to liven things up. The mother and daughter pair were very eloquent, and they never asked questions that would make their two guests uncomfortable. When they finished eating, they returned to the living room, where they were given refreshments. "Sir Ethan, I've heard that you had been forced to enter a nexus when you and another student of the academy were being chased by rogue wizards who were part of a bandit group. What was it like to travel in the past?" Princess Eva asked. "Very scary," Ethan replied. "Back then, I thought that I would not be able to return to the present, so at first, I was anxious every day. If I were in your position, I would have felt the same," Princess Eva said as she placed her hand over Ethan's, making the young man's body stiffen. "It must have been hard on you." "Not as hard as the situation I am currently in, Your Highness," Ethan replied as he looked at the soft, delicate hand that was touching his own. He was very tempted to ask the princess to remove her hand, but knowing that this was a rude thing to say, he decided to just endure for now. However, he wasn't able to hide the displeasure on his face, making Queen Evan and Princess Eva giggle at the same time. I told you, Mother, Princess Eva said. My charm is not working on Sir Ethan. My confidence has taken a hit. Don't worry, Eva. You're fine the way you are, Queen Evan replied. But I have to say that I find this quite amusing. Ethan, do you not find my daughter attractive? Princess Evangeline is a very beautiful lady, Your Majesty, Ethan replied. It's just that I already have too many ladies in my life, and I have learned that having more isn't always a good thing. Well said, Queen Evan nodded her head in understanding. Aside from me, my husband only has one more wife. He doesn't dare to add more because he is afraid that I might accidentally stab him in his sleep. Ethan tried to smile, but he couldn't. Although Queen Evan had said it in a teasing tone, he was certain that she wasn't joking at all. Well then, let's talk about something else, Sir Ethan, Princess Eva said with a smile. I did some research on the place where you and your friend appeared when you were sent to the past. The lands of Alastair is a very interesting place, but I found something more interesting as I conducted my research. Princess Eva then held Ethan's hand with both of her hands and held it firmly. Tell me, Sir Ethan, have you heard about the Tide Bringer? Princess Eva's smile turned mischievous as she stared right into Ethan's eyes. He was the deity worshipped in the lands of Alastair during the time period that you were there. Ethan had a bad feeling as he held the gaze of the beautiful princess, whose eyes were reflecting his image. Sir Ethan, did you perhaps acquire the Tide Bringer's legacy? No. Ethan's reply was firm, and yet Princess Eva only smiled as if she had heard something very amusing. I see, Princess Eva nodded. Well, since we are already on the subject, allow me to tell you about the Tide Bringer's legacy. However, what you are about to hear is something that I only learned from ancient texts. Whether they are true or not, I cannot confirm it. Princess Eva then closed her eyes, as if trying to recall what she had read in the ancient texts. Nearly 2,000 years ago, when the world was still in turmoil and many powerful deities roamed the world, a certain young man arrived in the lands of Alastair. Back then, the tribes in the area were at war with each other. This young man happened to arrive in a peaceful tribe who were doing their best to escape from the battles that were happening all around them. The peaceful tribe didn't have much to offer, but they gave him the best hospitality and even urged him to come with them as they looked for a safe place to hide. The young man agreed and traveled with them for several weeks. However, they soon found themselves surrounded by one of the warring tribes who wished to enslave those who were weaker than them. Just when the peaceful tribe thought that their time had come, the young man whom they sheltered stood between them and the tribe who wished to enslave their people. Knowing that words alone would not convince the aggressive tribe to let those who had shown him hospitality go, the young man summoned a trident in his hand and brought upon a storm. Yes, a trident that looked exactly like the one glowing on the back of your hand, Sir Ethan, Princess Eva said as she lightly tapped on the emblem of the sea god's trident, which, for some reason, was faintly glowing on the back of his hand. I see, Ethan replied with a calm expression on his face. What a coincidence. I bought that trident from the treasury of Brynhildr Academy. I guess the merits I used to purchase it were worth it. Oh, that is indeed a very interesting coincidence, Princess Eva commented. How much did you buy it for? 50,000 merit points. You got yourself a bargain, Sir Ethan. Those were merit points well spent. Queen Evan and Nicole just silently sipped their tea and listened to the exchange between the two. Please continue your story, Princess, Ethan said. I want to hear more about the Tide Bringer. Very well, Princess Eva nodded. So after the Tide Bringer summoned a thunderstorm, he wiped out the tribe that wished to enslave the people who had cared for him. Perhaps, hoping that no other people would suffer from the war, the Tide Bringer strengthened the thunderstorm, covering the entirety of the lands of Alastair. He then declared that from that moment onwards, the lands were under his protection. Anyone who wished to disturb the peace would become his enemy. Princess Eva paused for a bit as she stared at the trident that was glowing on the back of Ethan's hand. Half a minute later, she continued her tale. Of course, those who wished for dominion ignored his warning and continued to attack the nearby tribes that were much weaker than them. Unfortunately, their arrogance and ignorance paved the way for their entire tribes to be wiped from the face of the world. The Tide Bringer might be compassionate, but he was a very firm person. Once he declared something, he would do it without fail. After seeing and hearing the one-sided destruction that the aggressive tribes were facing, all the other tribes rejoiced and declared the Tide Bringer as their deity. These tribes called themselves the Allied Tribes, and they became one of the largest tribes in the lands of Alester. In order to ensure their safety, the Tide Bringer brought them to the city of Zentris, where they stayed for hundreds of years under his protection. However, time had come for the Tide Bringer to return to the sea. But before he left, he promised that one day, he or one of his descendants would return to the lands of Alester when the Allied tribes needed him the most. No one knew where he went, but he was never seen from again. His name was forever revered and spoken with pride by the people whose lives he had touched. Princess Eva then slowly raised her head to look at the young man's face, who was listening seriously to her tale. "You've met the Allied tribes, have you not, Sir Ethan?" Princess Eva asked. "I've met them," Ethan replied. "Were they facing a calamity when you arrived?" "Yes." Princess Eva smiled. "Then, did they call you the Tide Bringer when you were there?" "They did," Ethan answered. He was telling the princess the truth, because news of his and Lily's return had already spread within Eastshire and to the other Shire territories. Their stories of where they had appeared and what conflict they had taken part in were also recorded by the scholars of the kingdom. The reason why this was done was to give hope to those who might find themselves accidentally entering a nexus. They want Ethan's and Lily's story to become their guiding light in finding the way back to the present, where they rightfully belonged. Of course, he didn't mention the part about the Tide Bringer's legacy, nor his and Lily's relationship. He only said that they had no choice but to join the war, because if they didn't, they would have had no place to go in the lands of Alester. "Sir Ethan, did you know that even today the city of Zentris still exists?" Princess Eva asked. "I know," Ethan answered. "Then have you seen the 2 statues erected in its center?" Princess Eva inquired. "The locals say that it was the Tide Bringer and his wife. In fact, I happen to have a friend send a picture of it to me. Do you want to see it?" Ethan smiled faintly and nodded his head. Of course, he had seen the statues that Princess Eva was talking about. After all, it was the first thing they had seen upon arriving back at the present. The Princess of Eastshire then held a small blue crystal in her hand and used her magic power to activate it. A moment later, a projection showing 2 statues appeared inside the room. Queen Evan, Nicole, Mary, and Sue all looked at one of the statues with surprise because it looked exactly like Ethan. Nicole glanced at the second statue and confirmed that it was indeed Lily. Whoever made the statues had captured exactly how they looked and preserved them for the next generation to see. Ethan stared at the 2 statues and felt nostalgia. Even so, he had no intention of telling anyone that he had indeed acquired the Tide Bringer's legacy, which gave him dominion over the sea. Princess Eva deactivated the crystal inside. "It's quite unfortunate that Sir Ethan didn't acquire the Tide Bringer's legacy," Princess Eva stated. "If you did, you would definitely be hailed as a national treasure in Eastshire, and your reputation would spread far and wide across the Shire continent." "Indeed," Ethan nodded. "Quite unfortunate." Seeing that he was still not budging, Princess Eva sighed before shaking her head helplessly. Since the young man didn't want to admit that he was the Tide Bringer, there was nothing she could do about it. For the time being, she directed the conversation back to the ballroom party that would be happening the next day, ending the talk about the Tide Bringer and his legacy.